Hey, how you guys doing? I invite you guys up. Don, did you want to come up? I think you can bring yourself up, but
Hey guys,
how's it going?
good and you?
Hanging in there.
Dinner right now. I don't have my good headphones. I'm just gonna stay muted.
I got these really cool ones that come. They're Soundcore ones that come in a little thing you can carry around. It charges them.
Well, I have another
What's up, guys?
$10 set from Target. Hey, Handy.
How you doing?
Good, you?
Good. Start early.
Candies, $60.
Yeah, they're not cheap.
Well, I got the skull candies because we do everything. We have all Apple stuff, so we have like iPhone, iPads, watches, Macs. But I just could not bring myself to spend $200 for some fucking little Bluetooth buds. So I got the skull candy ones that are essentially the same thing, and it's not like a one size fits all either. Like they have interchangeable molds and they work pretty good. I like them. Like I said, they're only like $60, and they have a little charging case just like the AirPods, and they're pretty good.
I've seen those like in glass cases and stuff. And I'm like, why would you pay that much for that little thing that you could probably drop in the concrete and it'd be over?
No, dude, they're durable.
Are they?
I take
I've
mine to
dropped
the
mine a
gym.
couple times, but I've kind of gotten worried about it. I mean, mine were only like $50, and they're clear. I mean, I got no issues with them. So I guess Cook said Emperors wants to come and talk about Deep Space.
I pissed some folks off in Deep Space today.
What, did you hit some OPL?
I messaged them and I was like, "Yo, y'all are OPL," and then like they started complaining, and I was basically like, "All right, well, fuck you. Then next time I won't even warn you. Like I'll just hit you."
Well, it's getting kind of crowded up there, isn't it?
Yeah, there's a lot more people up there now. That's one. So
Yeah,
Well,
but it's not really
basically
like that crowded.
if you were to mine, if it were totally full, and you were to hit OPL, like a small amount, right? Like if you were to, depends on your. This is how people are playing. I don't necessarily agree with it, but this is how people are playing. If you take the intention into account, so you've got a system completely full. There's no zeros, and there's a few people OPL. One of them's 100K, one of them's 200K, and one of them's 20K. Well, to avoid pissing people off, you hit the one that's 20K, message them and tell them, hey, all the nodes are full and need a place to mine. So essentially, unless you're looking for a place to mine, people are getting pissed off if you hit them. If you're hitting them just for OPL and you're not trying to mine, they're going to get mad at you.
But at the same time, no one should be going absorbing the OPL. Like that MCRN guy I saw the other day, who's 300,000 OPL on a zero node that I was running the morning. I'm like, what the hell's wrong with him? And I really thought about killing him.
It's all about the fact that they're able to do it, so they're going to. A lot of these people that go way OPL and let the miners sit there all week don't even need the resources.
I just do one cycle on a node, first step on a node, go to sleep, wake up in the morning, do 5 times, and call it a day.
Cook, your sound quality is really bad, brother.
We gotta.
That's better.
We gotta get Cook.
Yes.
Yeah, we gotta get Cook a nice Bluetooth.
We need to get him good ear pods.
I have a $10 set I got from Target.
It sounds so much better.
They're so
That's why I switched it off. But I'm also in a sushi restaurant right now.
You just can't use them, man. Not on a voice chat.
Thanks.
Yeah, that's pretty bad.
I'm sure they work for listening to music, but
Honestly, the only reason I even got them was to listen to people talking on Discord.
Fair enough. As long as you're not talking, I'm sure they work just fine. But
yeah, when I'm pushing them into my ear further.
I should take that out of context. And as long as you're not talking, yeah, they work great.
the podcast is excellent when you're not talking. No, I'm kidding.
I mean, I think that the viewing's gone up on the podcast since you took over for Kirk.
Oh, I'm sure.
Hey, Kirk, forgot you were there.
Kirk's thinking of a comeback.
No, I'm not. I'm just kind of basking in the fact that my name's the one that's still on the podcast. So
that's just because Tech's too lazy to fucking change it.
It's because it's already established, man.
Yeah, I get it. It's all good. I don't really care.
Yeah, your grandfather, Dan.
I'm like that guy that has a bunch of money for no reason, and I own like 35% of a company, and they just can't do anything with me. Like they just have to deal with me. Like I just show up in overalls and a beer, and I'm like, so automotive rims. That sounds interesting. How does that work, sir? This is a board meeting. Yeah, and I'm on the board. So you got to tell me how this works. I as a matter of fact, I own more controlling shares than this guy. So you got to tell me what's up.
That sounds about right.
That's how I'd be if I was born into something like that.
The difference here, love for Kirk to be on the show every time, but he's just too freaking busy.
I have been
lately. Yeah, you have.
The problem is he spends too much time with his family. Who does that?
I know, that's ridiculous.
I've definitely made it a point to be on more. But the thing is, like my main quality is that I fucking wrangle a lot of those people that you fuckers just let ramble on forever.
Yeah,
it is really funny when you troll someone in your own podcast.
Well, just like last week, the guy that was getting on some freaking pedestal in some soapbox about cursing, and I was like, "Fuck that, Tech. What else you got?" Like, I literally just cut it off. Like, that was it. We're done with that. We're done. Moving on.
Did you watch that town hall with MPD and Rev Deuce last night? Rev Deuce had to tell them to stop cursing.
Yeah, I saw a little bit of it, and then I just realized I don't like Rev Deuce, so I turned it off.
Yeah, I'm not a big Rev fan. Yeah, they're used to listening to our podcast, which is why they're cussing.
Yeah.
Our podcast
I used to be, and then
adults.
the more I watch him, I'm like, he doesn't exactly have great info to share, and he doesn't exactly, it's not like he even does what he's preaching, because he's been 39 for months, if not almost a year, and he's got like nothing to show for it.
He's the free to play guy. He's the pirate. And if that's the way you play, then absolutely take his advice. I'm sure he's got good advice.
Yes,
and he does spend a lot of time. He does spend a lot of time on mechanic and figuring the numbers out, and he does spend a lot of time talking to people that do the same thing. So I'm sure he's got very good info. But as far as the way we play this game and some of the higher level players and what they need to do to get by in the game and whatnot, he's probably not the best to talk to.
Rev's perfect audience at this point is for people that are like, to be honest, when I listen to his content, I haven't listened to it in a little while, so I do have to throw that clarifier out there, but like it seems to me like his perfect audience would be people that are just now about level 34.
Right.
Like and that's
which is fine.
And yeah, and that's cool. And I feel like
a large bulk.
That's the majority. Yeah, that's the majority.
But yeah, so you need to be right behind him, like a few levels. Like he was really great for new guys, like when he was like, level 25 going up. Back when I don't know if Scopely started paying him again. He hasn't really talked about that, but
no,
I don't really watch him that much. He's
He
still off.
is not an official content creator.
Oh,
As far
speaking
as
of
I know.
which, the official sponsor of this podcast is my book, Space Age Chronicles, Mars. You can find it on my website, Amazon, and for Kindle or in paperback, and Barnes and Noble, and wherever ebooks are sold. Just had to put that plug in there.
Of course.
Yep. Yeah. Another sponsor
Do it
is
every time.
Andy's mom.
Yep. She's available anytime. Just go
She's
to the
great.
Trek Talk show, and you have to listen to the episodes for the little nuggets of information on how to get there.
You have to go through a Starbucks first.
The
Yep,
clues will
that
lead
too.
to her phone number. No, you guys had a good show last week, though.
I had to listen, but I've been so busy at work, it's been ridiculous.
I'm hoping Tech gets the episode we just recorded out fast, just because it's a little time
He's-
sensitive. Because we talked about Key and all that, but
He's got so much. He does so much with the show, man. I mean, there's so much editing. That's why if you listen, it's like I listen to our podcast, and then you listen to other people's podcasts. They'll have like several 100,000 subscribers, and it sounds like shit when you compare it to ours.
yeah,
Oh, yeah. I was talking to him about it the other day. I was like, you made my voice actually sound good, and my voice sucks. You know, it's amazing how well.
Yeah. Oh, he definitely takes pride in his work product, and he's still got a couple. Like, there's the episode where we recorded with Jim, where we just talked about general Star Trek stuff like a couple weeks ago that he's still got to push out, and
I'm pretty sure he's got like 3 episodes that haven't been released.
he does.
Yeah.
He's got a lot of stuff. He's got a lot of stuff that he's got to work on. So, he's he definitely does a lot. So I'm sure he's doing all he can. Plus, he's got a lot of stuff going on at work.
Right. As well as his family.
Yeah. So we got that going on. So, what is the subject today? I see it's Armada etiquette. TC changes ships in deep space.
Yes. Well, Sid threw in the deep space one because he wanted to go over with his people. Thank you.
So we want to start out with Armada etiquette, because that's been a subject that's been coming up a lot in our alliance.
How do you handle it now?
Well, I do have a post that I put up a while ago about Armada etiquette. I'm not sure how many people have read it who've recently joined, but it's mainly for the new people of telling people that, especially if there's a lot of Armadas being posted, it's important for the Armada leader to say, if they're ignoring stars callouts and doing power instead based on the level of the alliance and their level. Also, people, if there's multiple armadas going, that people, after they put in X or an on my way, that they need to put the leader's name so that people know which one they're going to, and that they have to be respectful of if there's so many people and they say full, that there's a cutoff there. If they don't get in, they don't get in. And it's more of being respectful to each other, not getting upset about not getting in every armada.
Right.
That's the important thing, because you gotta a lot of people don't you gotta understand, like, the people that are running it, that's their hard-earned time and or money that they're using as directives, especially for rares and epics, and the goal is to win. So like, if somebody starts a freaking, let's just say, a 39 epic, and you show up with a 1.3 million Saladin, like,
Not getting in.
there's a high chance probability that you're not getting in, and if you don't need to be upset. That's hitting way above your weight class, and as you progress in level, it costs more and more tokens to unlock the chests. So that's why most people have now gone to, like, they don't really do the X's anymore. I'll do it out of courtesy, but a lot of times I'll just show up to the big armadas. If the armada leader wants me in there, then they'll leave it alone. If they don't, then they'll star me out. I mean, that's just the way that it needs to be, because the objective is to win. Too many people. We had this issue a while back, and too many people they're trying to ride the coattails of people that are spending money. And it's like, yeah, if there's an opportunity for you to get in there, then that's great. But if there's not, then you can't really be upset. They're contributing more than you are as far as money and time.
Yeah, it's just this simple. If you want control of an armada and you want to be in for sure, then start it.
Yeah.
I mean, you start the armada, you got control of it. I mean, the way we do it, Nona, is whoever starts the armada has full control. Nobody can say anything. Not an inch, not nobody. So, and we do a private PM thing where if you would like a star, you request a star. But if the person doesn't give, they don't have to give it to you. It's just letting whoever's running it know that, hey, I need these rewards. And it's just kind of on the honor system. You know what I mean? If you don't really need it, then don't ask for it. And most people don't. And the people that do ask repeatedly, and they're obviously coattail riders, people start noticing that, and people talk. And if you're asking for a star every single time, you're probably going to have somebody having a conversation with you. Like, hey, man, we noticed you asked for a star every single time. And then you usually get the excuses like, oh, well, I never get in, and blah, blah. Well, that's not true. We see you get starred all the time because you're always freaking asking. You know what I mean?
Yeah, the reason I wrote that up is we had a member who was always wanting into armadas, and because they were not getting star all the time because they didn't have the power for a lot of them, they wouldn't start armadas, or they would start solo armadas, intentionally weak ones that they could solo. I mean, saying that they were soloing it, and then yelling at other members who joined in because they didn't see that the person wanted to solo. And it's like,
well, that person is being a selfish prick.
Exactly, and I called them out, and then I put up the etiquette thing on our forum. We say, look, you guys need to work together. It's a team effort. This is the etiquette that needs to go into place, and communication is the biggest key. A lot of the times, and I'm probably one of the worst ones about it. People run our models. I'll send a ship over for support if needed. And a lot of times when I'm running one, I'm usually at work or driving or something. I'll throw it and I'll just say power because I'm not paying attention. Don't expect a star. I'm not paying attention. And so I do that. Communication.
And it's a hard balance in our alliance right now too, is because we've got a lot of newer players, and we've also got a set of higher level players. Not quite. I'm not talking your higher level as Nona, but a few 39ers and up there. So there's going to be kind of a schism there in where you're going to set into play when something gets run. Like if we're going to run a 37 mil rare, they're going to need those 39 ships.
And that's actually a large reason why we level block new recruits, is we don't want them to feel left out. So when people come into our alliance, for example, when they are lower level at the, bare minimum requirements, we just let them know, hey, you're going to have trouble getting into armadas. We just want you to understand and agree to that beforehand, because, we don't want anybody getting upset. We want you to progress and have a good time. And if you just don't have the ship power, it's going to be tough for you.
What's the minimum now for you guys?
I think we still have it at 34. I think.
I remember when it was 28. That was a long time ago, though.
Yeah.
I think Darks is still 28. I gotta look.
At any rate, I mean, usually, I think people at lower level usually don't ask to join because they understand that as well,
Yeah.
Yet
Whereas we
it's
have,
gonna be hard to play with an alliance that's typically 39 up for the most part.
well, we have like 739s. We have about, I think, like almost 20, 34 to 38, and or 37. And then we have about 20 that are between like 16 and 24.
Yeah, and so typically those players in the groups are typically going to run armadas together.
Yeah.
It's just
And
your
then,
lower level guys usually aren't as serious of a player, right? So when they do want to play, it's harder for them to get in armadas, and when they do start smaller ones, people don't show up.
actually,
So
I would slightly disagree with that because they are newer players, but we have some of these people who started when they started the game and they found us, we let them in, and I'd say within about 3 months they got to the early 20s, which is pretty quickly, I think, considering the way things were when we got to the 20s.
I believe to get from 1 to like 20 these days only takes a few weeks.
Yeah, well, they are mostly free to play, but they are online every day, participating in territory and everything else.
Yeah, well, that's awesome. I mean, I don't begrudge anybody for any level, whatever level they play at. Great. It's just, I don't want to see anybody get pissed off because they're not having fun because they have nobody to play with at their level.
Well, that's why we have a good amount of people at every level so that they can play with each other. And then we're just guiding them through. I mean, that's part of the point of these firesides is to help guide them through.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's a great idea.
And I've always said to them that a level 20 active player in territory capture is better than a level 46 player that is barely around. Because they may not have the ships, but they have that activity and they are there participating. And that's what matters, especially during TC defense.
Well, in TC, yeah, absolutely.
Because really all you need to do is have a ship there to score points.
I mean, in general, it doesn't matter what power level player you have. If they're not present, they're not helping at all.
Exactly.
Yeah, they don't do much good, right?
Yeah, I mean, the issue with that is I find a lot of players feel kind of like depressed over the fact that they feel like they're not strong enough to help during situations like that. And they almost feel like they should be pushed to get stronger to do better. And I'm saying, no, I'm not forcing you to spend money. I'm not pushing you to do anything. Just be active. Being active is all that matters.
Very, very true. I'd take an active level 38 over an inactive level 46 any day.
Exactly.
Now, just to throw this out there, anybody in the audience has questions, just raise your hand. If you hear something that we're talking about, you want to have a question about it, just raise your hand. Bring it up.
And Drift, please moderate that since I have the phone in my ear. I can't really see it.
Yeah, I can see it.
Thanks. Yeah, so that's pretty much it with Armada etiquette. Be communicative, respectful, help each other out, understand when you're not going to get into something. And also, like with these Armada events, the high levels will throw small ones to help you guys out to make sure that everyone gets in if they need it.
You can go ahead and bring yourself up to the stage, John. How
Hey,
you
can you
doing?
hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, right on. Can I ask a question about something we're not even talking about?
Yeah.
I would really love it if, first of all, hi guys, I'm John.
Hello.
I would
John.
love it if somebody would teach me how to. I don't know anything about how to attack a base. And in response to what was said earlier, I downloaded this game like when it first came out, and I've tried like 2 or 3 times to get into it, and I couldn't a couple months ago. Like I'm totally digging this. So that's why I'm a low player, trying to hustle every day.
So
what in
what level are you
particular?
at now?
I just got to 23 yesterday or the day before.
Have you unlocked all the augment stuff?
What's that? What was your question?
Sorry, I was eating. Have you unlocked the augment space?
Oh, totally. I totally do everything I can on augment. I'm trying. I don't know how to get to rogue, but yeah, I'm on augment every day trying to build that up.
Well, the rogue you can't do until you're 27, so that's fine.
Oh, okay.
But the rogue stuff, the augment stuff, you really want to get a hold of, because if you look at those officers, those are your base cracking officers. Their ability is all about rating. Aside from the uncommon Rakim.
Meanwhile, you always ask your teammates to crack bases for you, show you how to raid.
We are always very happy to crack bases. They're easy and fun for us to crack. A lot of us,
I didn't know that.
Yeah, a lot of us actually enjoy cracking them more than raiding them. So if you see a base that you want cracked, just let us know, and we will happy to hit it for you.
Oh, right on. I didn't know that, but that's cool. Thank you.
And then you want to make sure you have stone on your ship so that you can maximize your cargo load to raid them.
Okay. Is that the one that puts it by, like, I can't remember now. There's a guy that doubles your safe cargo. I don't remember who that was.
Stone is going to be the rare or officer.
Okay, you guys were both talking at the same time.
He's your ore officer, the rare.
Oh, okay. Right on. Oh, that's really all I wanted to talk to you guys about, because I've been, every time my shield goes down, someone hits me, and I want to know how to hit people. So.
Do you have an NS, a North Star?
I do.
Okay, those we found those to be fantastic ships for early base cracking. I know they're minors, but they hit really hard, especially the low 20s and even like 18, 19. So they're worth every penny that you can put into them if you pay. If not, I mean, we always found them to be fantastic base busters. And you'd load them up with your augment crew, you smack a few bases, and you'll be surprised that it doesn't take very long to get into some of them. And then you just swap it out.
Right on. And there's a few people I'm looking for. I want to revenge. I just want revenge.
If you have resources, people are going to hit your base if your shield goes down. It's going to happen.
Right. And for the first month I was playing, I never bubbled. I was building up my bubbles, and I noticed, like, when you bubble up for like 3 days, it's amazing how many resources you get. Like when nobody's hitting you.
Well, remember, when you do your dailies, you're going to get 24 hours worth of speed ups every single day if you complete all your dailies.
Right.
And so there's no excuse to not have your shield down unless you're hitting someone.
Right.
And I know does Incourt still keep his shield up 24/7?
You know, I'm not sure. I think he does, but
Inco used to always say he always keeps it up. It does so, and he's the highest level player in the game. So anyone can raid you. Although last time we tried to raid Inco, it took like 30 minutes. No, it took 30 minutes to try and crack the base.
Yeah, it took like 30 minutes to crack it. like just and all fence.
Yeah, I've seen those. I didn't know whether they were of any use or not. And can I want to ask about officers. When I switch my ships out, the officers, like, everything gets messed up.
What do you mean?
It's like I'll set all my ships to the officers I want in that particular ship, and then when I swap the ship out, the officers that were in that ship are on the next ship, and I have to go back in and change them manually. Like, why does it do that?
That's
Yeah,
something that Scopely does.
The officer stays. Whatever officers you assign to a particular ship slot is where they'll stay. So no matter what ship you swap onto that dock, it'll have the same officers.
I think the best way to look at it is just you're putting your ship in that hangar. So the crew, they're not going to the hangar with the ship. They're hanging out at the space dock. So as soon as you switch to a different ship on that dock, they're going to hang out on that ship.
Yeah, essentially you're assigning the officers to the dock, not the ship.
Yeah. Trust me, we've been asking Scopely to fix that for years.
It's on a very, very, very long list of things to fix.
Oh yeah, so I'd also love to see preset officers, like little hotkeys. Like if I had like 5 hotkeys.
Hotkeys, yes.
That would be awesome.
And the only way the hotkeys pop up, like if all your ships are home or something, you know, that way there's none of that conflict with officers being away. You know, but if you have all your ships home, it'd be nice to just like recrew like real quick, have like 5 or 6 or however many docks you have a preset for that dock.
Right on.
Be awesome.
You know what I really hate too is when you're moving officers around that are on the bridge of another ship, how they move officers from your lower deck up onto your bridge. Oh, that drives me nuts.
That is a little annoying.
Yeah.
I don't understand the purpose of it. It's not like anybody in your lower dock is actually going to be the one you want up there. So why do it?
It just screws everything up.
Yeah.
All the time.
Since we're talking about below decks, can I ask a question?
Yeah.
So I understand kind of above deck or on the bridge crewing. I don't understand below decks other than just power. And so usually when I crew my battleships and so on and so forth, the ones that I'm going out to fight with, I typically just do power or strength. And I don't. My wife was telling me there's some sort of combination that needs to be equipped depending on what you're doing within the game.
Now that essentially is so lower deck obviously doesn't use any skills. It's just about the stats of the officer. So attack, defense, etc. Health, yeah. So you'll see the 3 bars where you can max out your stats, right? As far as percentage goes. And so whoever you put, you just want to try and balance that, basically. So you use your lower deck to kind of balance and get the most out of it you can. So for certain situations, for certain ships, certain ships are going to use certain stats, right? So it's more important to have that particular stat maxed out because that's where all your hitting power comes from. Or if it's an enterprise or something, then you're focusing on defense. If it's a battleship, you're focusing on attack. So you'll want to make sure that stat is maxed out first. So your lower deck should reflect that. And then if you have enough crew slots open in your lower deck, you can max them all out.
Also, bear in mind, some officer stats utilize that percentage. So you have an officer that says does damage based on 300% times total ship health. So that's like all the officers health, if you want to boost that health as max and high as possible, 300% times that total health will do the damage to the opponent's vessel.
So you're basically just trying with your lower decks to get the 300 across the board.
Essentially, yes. And if that's not possible, then you boost the stat that is most important for the type of ship it is, or the skills you're using, or both.
When you're
like certain
talking about,
officers, like Spock, is a heavy defense officer. So if you have an ability that says it's based on defense, you put Spock on the lower deck, especially if it's Enterprise, because you don't need him on your bridge.
Right. There's also other
Excellent
things to
utilize for that.
consider. Like if you're using Kirk Spock on an Enterprise, and it basically means there ain't nothing getting through that shield. So you don't have to really worry about defense. You're going to want to make sure your attack and health is maxed out before your defense.
gotcha. So it
there's
depends.
just kind
So
of
when
a balancing act to do.
gotcha. So when it comes to the ships, how do you know what ships are best for what? So like my auger is what versus my, my miners are what? What do we? How do I know what those ships are best for? Do I just look at their? How
You
do I
look
know
at
that?
the stats of the ship, and each ship is going to have certain stats that are much higher than any other category.
Okay,
like,
so they'll have like.
Well, we can use an example. Let me open up a ship. What's something that everybody has? Like a Vidar or something?
Yeah, Vidar, I guess.
Oh, by the way, Handy, this is the Frank that Jeep wanted to talk to. Frank, we're happy to hear your voice.
Yeah. So
yeah. I don't usually talk to people at all, so this is definitely not normal. That's why Cook's introducing me. So sorry about that.
This is one of those times when we scream unicorn.
Right.
Unicorn.
If you pull up your Vidar and you go to details, so it's main stats and then details, right?
Okay.
And you go and you look at your attack. So, and then you take all your officers off, and then you look at defense and you look at health, and you see the actual numbers there.
Mm-hmm.
That'll tell you which stats the ship is geared towards, right? What it's already naturally good at.
That's in main stats or in details?
In details. You can see all. You can see your health bonus, you can see everything, all the stats on it. You can see your damage per round, your armor piercing, your shield piercing, your accuracy, critical chance, like under attack, critical damage percentage.
Gotcha.
So, but this is getting really technical, and probably most people don't need to worry about this. But it does come in handy when you, and so it comes into play. Like, say you're trying to kill a yellow, and you're just barely not killing it or something. You could go in there and you could fine tune your ship a little bit as far as stats and bonuses and whatnot, to go ahead and kill that hostage to finish the event or whatnot. And you can see what your ship's strengths are and what its weaknesses are, and that'll that comes back to the battle triangle and everything else, is knowing what your ship is good against and what it's not good against.
Right. But as far as I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna re-explain myself, which isn't necessary. Go ahead. What were you gonna say?
No, I was just going to say, so then basically the idea is take everybody off of my ship just to kind of look at my numbers first, and then I know, okay, well, that ship is better at attack or defense or health or whatever, and then I can kind of crew accordingly.
Correct, if you want to be well balanced. But there's other reasons to know what the stats are. For example, if you're trying to use a particular ship because it's the only one you have, like if you only have like you only have one epic explorer, for example, and you want to, go kill a specific yellow, or you're in a PvP event and everybody else is using battleships or whatever, like those kind of things are important because it tells you how you want to crew your ship, and it depends on what you're trying to kill, dictates what officers you want to use and what skills.
Got it. Okay. Cool. That's what I was trying to figure out. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. I hope that was clear enough.
That was better than I could have done.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and that does
other
get a little technical. That is
there's
maybe more technical than you want.
Yeah, I try and shy away from getting too technical because at the end of the day, it's a mobile game. So most people aren't too interested in getting that technical. There aren't many people on our server that really get into the nitty-gritty of how stuff works,
but that's still a simple enough explanation without going into math.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
I don't want to go there.
Yeah, please don't.
It's okay. We have Darius
If
for that.
anybody wants, if anybody wants math, go to Darius's channel. He'll look you up.
Yeah.
Yeah, personally, I just like to try.
Darius's channel.
I just try to max out my bottom as much as I can,
Yeah,
and
of course.
that's as technical as I get. Like,
probably about 98% of players, that's about as technical as they get. However, the other dynamics, such as officer skills, everybody should be interested in.
Yeah.
And also the battle triangle. Learn it, know it, memorize it, because it's extremely
and learn
important.
how to break it. Learn how to break it too, because that can be done with the officer abilities.
Between officer abilities and the proper research can be done.
Right. Research is everything.
That away team research, they introduced Trinity breaking research.
Well, her name's 5 of 10, but yeah.
Yeah. Her too. And as great as she is, she isn't the end all be all. And trust me, you know how much I love her. Present company excluded.
That away team research is absolutely huge. That does a lot of things for you. Bringing up that topic, one thing that I've noticed getting deep into that tree is the officer bonuses that are in there. It kind of self-perpetuates the tree, so that the more you kind of focus on some of those officer bonuses, the better completion you get with your future away teams. Up your percentages a little bit and stuff like that. So really, really very helpful.
Yeah, I love that officer research.
What are the epic ones like for who can get to them?
Okay,
the payout's pretty decent. I mean, comparatively speaking, you need higher stats. It's lower or higher minimums to be able to achieve 1% or 100%. But your initial serving of what are they? What's the away team resource? I'm drawing a blank.
The medals.
Yeah, service medals. Thank you. You get better payout on the service medals and stuff like that. So they tend to be like minimum 1 day. It's 1, 2, 3 day missions that I've seen there. I don't think I've seen anything shorter than 24 hours. But
you haven't done one of the 5-day ones?
I think I have, but I'm pretty sure I threw speed ups at that and didn't think about it.
Yeah, I've done 2 of the epic data shard ones, and with over 100%, which meant I had to use my best officers for those. I threw speed ups at them because it was during that last Wesley event, and I'm really annoyed because I did not get those criticals for data shards.
I haven't seen any missions with data on. I keep getting ones with board probes or
with
whatever the
the
hell.
active nanoprobes.
Yeah, active
I
and
love
inactive or
those.
inert.
Yeah,
Yes, I do
anytime I can
really
stay
Yeah,
out
those
enjoy
are
of,
my
nanoprobe
favorite.
ones.
if I
Those
can
are the
avoid,
Or
best.
active, I don't care which. I love those ones. That means I don't
Yeah,
have to
I'll
go
take it.
grind.
yeah,
Exactly. There is nothing I hate in this game as much as killing probes, man. Oh my goodness.
It is
So
really a
monotonous.
chore. I go and do that when I'm doing my swarms in the morning. It's such a chore.
There'd be a lot more board probes in the universe if there wasn't such a need for faction credits in my life.
yeah. Now I'm just now working on maxing my Vidar because I was so focused on just getting my last Enterprise blueprint that now I'm focused on that. I probably could have been easier if I had done it earlier, but I wasn't into the new ships when they first came out. I was just kind of like, blah, another ship.
Well, the
Stella,
Vidar,
blah.
the Vidar and the Stella specifically, I would say if you don't have them maxed, I would make it a focus, or at least a secondary focus.
I'd say for me that was one of my mile markers before I went past 33. I made sure that that the Vidar was maxed before I moved into level 34. 33 was like a project stage for me, is kind of catch up on my Franklin, catch up on my Vidar, make sure they were maxed before I was going forward, and the resources had to go to higher cost buildings or more G3 mats for the 34 ships and stuff like that. So I always recommend to folks that ask me, get those done before 33, and even earlier than that is good if it's if it fits in your gameplay flow. But being able to get that Vidar maxed is a big deal. That faction credit generation, that's one of your big walls in the game. Aside from like 3-star mats and stuff like that, faction credits become a real bear around your mid
Also,
30s.
go hunt your what are they called? Scouts. Go hunt your scouts every day because they're just free money, straight up. And man, if you click that button every day, they add up. Time.
Especially for
I
the
was
guys that are in
milking
deep
that.
space.
I have a question about that.
Mm-hmm.
What are you talking about? Just kill your scouts every day.
Well, there are certain systems that have a hostile that that pops up every once in a while, and it's going to be a scout, and it's going to be faster than every other ship in the system. It's going to fly around for a few minutes and then disappear if nobody hits it.
Star next to it.
Oh, I never.
Yeah, they're always interceptors, and they're
Yeah.
in systems that might be full of battleships or something, and there'll be like a really fast interceptor, and you want to chase it, and they'll leave you messages from other factions, and then you can use those in your faction store for faction credits.
Wow, I never knew anything about that.
Well,
Yeah.
you're not at a high enough
Free
level
money.
to maybe use them.
Oh, okay. Well,
Once
I
you start hitting like level 28, I think, then you're gonna start seeing them.
oh, okay. Well, I
Yeah,
hit
see, I think
swarms.
they only spawn in faction space, and I want to say it's like either 26 or 28 systems they first start showing up in. Spawn rate seems to be about every somewhere between 10 and 20 minutes, depending on the system level. I found I had good success before I got to dark space. In 36 systems, so like Archer in Fed space was real good to me. But systems in that range seem to have the best combination of spawn rate and how many messages they actually give to you, which becomes important as you rep up further because you need more and more messages. Each rep level you go up for your faction.
The higher level the scout, the better messages you're going to be able to get.
We had a guy around your level
random.
though.
I hit a 43 scout the other day. It only gave me like 50 messages. I was pretty pissed.
Oh, you got screwed, dude. Those things give me like 175 or 150 or something every time I hit them.
They normally give me between 80 and 150.
The 50s are great. You get like 1,000.
Show off.
Yeah, but
we had.
How many do you need to turn in every day?
We had a guy that was like level 21 or 22 that would take 2 ships to a 38 system and hunt 38 scouts and hit him with 2 ships just to be able to kill it. Just to get that, like, sometimes they drop, like, I think, what, like 80 messages or 60 messages or something. I forget, but he would get
Totally
like
worth
2 or
it.
3 days worth.
Totally worth it.
Because
It's
yeah,
depending on your rep level.
absolutely.
So they
So
also
what?
give higher levels of rep than the other regular hostiles.
Which is another thing to consider when you're leveling up your rep. Make sure you don't do it too fast because it might up the cost faster than you're able to meet those costs.
Yeah, like
That's what's great about dual factioning, like where you're at, that because you move up slowly and you can milk that all the way up.
I am
Yeah.
actually probably gonna hit tremendous by the end of this week. So we'll
Nice.
see what happens with that.
If I'm
Yeah, right.
hitting like, if I'm on a mission and I have a ship that's higher than me, I can hit it with dual ships. It doesn't reset after the first one attacks.
You've
You've
to
gotta
be
be
really
quick.
fast.
Oh, okay.
The
Okay.
hull will reset, so it'll get all of its hull strength back, but the shield will regenerate in normal time. So if you can hit the ships back to back on a particularly challenging hostile, you hit it your first crew, hit it with something that's going to strip the shield down fast, maybe like Yuki as captain or something like that, and then you send your power ship in as the second ship to hit it once those shields are mostly gone, and that will make for a much easier kill.
That's very cool. I'm going to be busy tonight. I
Now, a
love
word
it.
of caution though on those hostile captains, when you do that mission, one thing that I've seen a lot of players do is they rush through all of those that they can beat, and the
Right.
dilithium rewards in those are really great, but they're not like it's more dilithium than you need in the earlier
Right.
levels. And then players have a tendency to sit there and become targets for raids because you're holding 150, 200 million dilithium as a level 30, 32, and you're not going to touch that pile until you're 36, 37. So, I caution people and tell them, just don't be to sit on those because you're going to come to a level eventually where you're going to really wish you had those sitting there. And there's nothing wrong with finishing a mission and archiving it and saving it until it's time for the rewards to be very beneficial to you. We recommend that to anybody who's doing faction lock for whatever your third faction is. So if you're a dual faction, I was, Fed ROM all the way up. I didn't turn in a single Klingon mission. I collected all of them. I completed as many as I could, but I didn't I didn't click the gold button until my first 2 factions were locked and it was time to dig out of that 2 million rep hole. I did that in about 90 minutes by just turning in every Klingon mission I had found and completed all at about one time. And
That
that
is
got me out of the
excellent
hole
advice.
immediately.
It's great when you do that.
That is excellent advice.
I
Hopefully
did
they
the
don't
same
get.
thing.
Yeah, I didn't complete them first, but I saved them all. It seems to be just the right amount too to get you out of that negative 2 mil.
Yeah,
As long
especially
as
when
you
you
do
get
the
into
right
some of the
hunting.
34 plus.
Now,
I
the other thing
noticed
is with those.
Go ahead,
Sorry,
Jeff.
with those when you're doing the hostile captain ones, something else to touch on with that is don't go above level 40 or stop well before then if you want to save up that try because as soon as dilithium because once you hit like level 39 or 40 on that, the dilithium rewards drop substantially, like
Oh
like
yeah.
a rock. It goes from like 90 million to 5 million.
I actually noticed the other day I've accidentally balanced my research so that all of my ROM rep gains when using a ROM ship are kind of built up, and I haven't really done any of the other ones. So when I'm running around killing Klingons in dark space with my augur or my gladius, even though I get a 2-to-1 on my Fed to ROM ratio, they're actually climbing at almost exactly the same rate right now. I would love to say that I planned that. I absolutely did not.
So, what specifically in deep space about deep space did you want to talk about?
Hey guys, before we go into that, I have a question about some of the stuff I've been listening to. Can I ask that, please?
Get in.
Yeah.
All right. Couple of things. One, faction lock. I'm triple faction locked, but is there a secondary triple faction lock down the way that I
Yes.
should be looking at?
Yes,
1
there
billion.
is, but
And
you really don't have to worry about it till you're like mid to late 40s.
okay, so I'm not anywhere near that, so that's fine. I may never ever get there. Who knows? We'll see. Um,
Well, no,
the
you'd be surprised. Back a year and a half, 2 years ago, nobody thought they would get to 39. So
yeah. The other
so
question.
you'll all be there before you know it.
Yeah. I had two other questions. The scouts, that was hugely helpful. I never knew anything about that. I just now figured that out. So whoever said that was great. Thank you. I'll be killing a lot of scouts. And then the other question that I had was Stella. Why? Why am I maxing out the Stella?
For research.
So the
Research
research
is very, very, very important.
So max out my Stella so that I can get to the research in that tree, because that helps
That
everything else.
and you need to max your Stella out. I highly recommend that you have 2 Stellas so that you can max one out, play with it, and when you max the second, scrap it.
Got it.
And then you keep rinse, repeat, and you keep one maxed out that you can play with, and then your second one you just keep scrapping it, build it up, max it out, scrap it again, and rinse, repeat. And what that gives you is the stellar particles to be able to do all that research.
Gotcha.
And that research is hugely beneficial.
Okay, so it's not that the Stella is that great of a ship. It's just that it's
just
all the
a
research
means to an end.
Gotcha.
Yeah, it gives you the access to the cuts. It gives you the materials cuts and things like that. You get a lot of warp speed increases. One thing you'll run into that you might not be able to see now in the tree, but as you get into later tiers of the research, is there's some pretty heavy rep requirements for rogue rep. On some of those researches at the 37, 39 range, you'll start seeing rep requirements of 3, 4, 5 million. Now, don't let that scare you necessarily, because once you hit partner, it starts going very, very fast. If you're doing your max pulls and playing efficiently, I think I clear every 3 days is probably at least 250,000 rep to be able to hit those requirements. So, but they are hefty at first. They're kind of staggering. So, but if you keep on, like Andy said, keep your one at max and play with it while you're building the other one, and then once you've got that up, you can drop the first one and just kind of keep that rolling. You can hit a good rhythm with it and be able to get those researches unlocked pretty quick. Now, the real benefit to that, at least from my perspective or in my experience, is I have an auger. They are getting to the point that they're just as big as a lot of the ones that I've seen running around for a long time. And I've paid less in terms of G3 materials and in terms of RSS to be able to get my ships to that same power level as somebody who hit 39 a year ago. I've already saved myself thousands of G3 materials by getting those efficiencies done first before hitting the big modules on those 34 ships. So a module that starts out at 8,000 is costing me, 6,200 instead, which, is still a staggering number. But at the same time, that's 2.5 months of gameplay less that it took me to get to the same power level as somebody who came before me. And that's really the big benefit that, at least that I see in those researches, is the fact that it lets you speed up the clock, basically.
Gotcha.
Yeah, middle of the pack as far as level is the best place to be. You're gonna spend less time, get the same amount of stuff done, because Scopely kind of molds their game around the middle of the pack, and you're gonna get the best bang for your buck there. As far as not actual money, but time spent playing the game to get certain resources. And in any of the research trees, the efficiency is where you should start. And of course, to get some of the efficiencies, you'll have to do some of the other research, but they all kind of link together. So,
Gotcha.
Some of that stuff is expensive too, and don't get scared away from doing them.
Okay.
Like,
well, it's even
expensive,
more
I mean
reason
by
to.
materials, not expensive. Like,
Mhm.
I mean you have to buy them.
Right. So basically, if I was right now, I'm triple faction locked where I'm at 35. I shouldn't be working on trying to work towards a faction lock because that's way down the road. I should
Right.
work on my Stella, getting that maxed out, and start working on my the research that comes along with that.
What level are you again?
35.
So for you, I would kind of focus on leveling up to 36
Mm-hmm.
and kind of get going on your epics.
Well, I have an auger. I just haven't been
Oh,
able
that's
to
right.
pick it
You
up.
do get epics
Yeah.
at 32?
At
God, it's been so
34.
long, I can't even remember.
You get them at 34.
34? Okay.
Yeah, I have an auger, and I'm pretty close to getting my enterprise. So I just, but I before I really knew too much about the game, I bought an Intrepid, and so I killed all of my stuff with that. But it's been a good ship. It's fine. It's just, yeah, it does one
Use
thing
up a lot
really
of your
well. So
faction credits and stuff.
yeah, exactly. So
Auger or yeah. I know what
so
you
yeah,
mean.
I mean, I could buy another. I bought my auger, and then I I'm working towards my enterprise. I don't know if the D4 would be something that I'm going to use for that long. I don't know. I could
The-
theoretically buy it now with the
The
credit.
auger is the strongest epic.
Right, but the enterprise has the most versatility from what people are telling me. I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah, it's a very well-rounded ship. It's great for a lot of different. But as far as like punching hard and causing lots of damage, the auger is the best.
Yeah, and that's why I bought that one first, and that's what when I was looking at things. That's why I bought the Intrepid in the rare ships, because it was the highest power starting out, and so I just kind of was like, logically, I thought, okay, well, the Intrepid's going to be the best of those rares, and then
Another thing to consider is like for armadas specifically, the auger is going to get you more reward, but is going to die fast. The enterprise is going to last a lot longer, but not do as much damage. And your damage directly correlates with how much rewards you get. So if you don't want to repair a lot, like say you don't have the resources to be repairing your ship a lot, then run an enterprise with Kirk and Spock and Khan or something like that. And you're going to do a decent amount of damage and get some rewards, but your ship's not going to die nearly as much, so you won't have to repair it as much.
right,
But if you're somebody that has a lot of resources to just repair and speed it up with no problem, then maybe run the auger so you can get your max damage going and get more rewards out of it. So it just kind of depends on the individual player and where you're at as a player. Another thing to really consider about armadas is balanced crews between the different players in the armada. So you're going to want each member of the alliance, especially in your higher powered ones where it's like a stretch, like not sure if you're going to win or not. You're going to want to have each player like actually, design a crew setup for each member and plan it so that when you run it, you're going to win without everybody dying, right? So there's going to be certain crews that work really well when you mix together. Like one person needs to be running burning and get the armada burning. One person, needs to affect the stats of the armada. Use the officers that bring the stats of the armada down.
We were
Et cetera,
sort
et
of
cetera.
doing that when we spent 5 rounds doing a Deep Space Armada last night.
Well, no, we do that quite a bit, to be honest. On the larger ones, we're not quite that organized as to have assigned crews, but we'll have plenty of armadas that, if the larger players are coming, we'll have how many people are running GG. If I've got 4 augers, showing up, 2 guys at most running, a burning crew for redundancy to make sure everybody's augers go off, and then that gives us room to put, Lorca on another one so we can have Hull Breach running and ramp to crit damage and, do some different things like that and kind of squeeze a little bit more power out of whatever we're bringing. Because if you've got, 5 augers showing up to a 5-man armada, 5 burning crews, like Andy's pointing out, isn't really going to do much for you. It's it's going to be burning the whole time. Everybody's augers get their bonus, but you could be doing more, saving yourself in repairs, higher kills, stuff like that. So,
Yeah.
but
5
that is something
auger.
that I'd like to see our mid-range players getting a little more into and having a little more organization on that end, which is something we should be helping them out with to make sure that they know what their good combinations are, what a good Armada team should look like.
So what is the point, you think, of why is it these armadas down here in normal space they're so infrequent? When you go into exchange space, they've got respawn rates that, like, as soon as you kill an armada, another one respawns.
It is literally just that Scopely is lazy and didn't want to go back.
Because wouldn't it make them money, wouldn't you think?
You would think so.
Honestly,
I mean,
they
it's
would have
a
made
huge
killing with
problem for
Armada
people right now. People are complaining, and
Yeah.
it's ridiculous, especially on a busy server. Nobody can find armadas when they have these events.
Yeah, and a lot of people even say, hey, so many people would have bought that amazing Armada pack had Armadas been more available.
Very true.
I mean, how many people know that said, I'm not doing it just because the Armadas weren't available?
Yeah, a lot of people. Yeah.
And
I will straight up admit that I bought it twice, and I did it as an investment towards my jellyfish, because I didn't really get to throw a single epic armada during the event. But my intention was never to do that. My intention was to fill my pocket with epic armada throws, so that the other half of my jelly is not as in question as it is right now. And a couple of $100 packs is, let's be honest, way less than I could have spent trying to chase one jelly event just to lose to the guy that had been saving for a year. So
yeah,
I felt like making that move was a good investment to the future in my personal path, but it's also what I'd be hesitant to suggest to anybody else.
Well, they came with a lot of
I
materials
thought
too.
about buying that pack, but I've also spent way more money than I should have this month.
Another thing to consider is don't neglect some of these prime researches. For people that don't spend a whole lot of money, there are a few of these primes that are so incredibly beneficial. Like, for example, the prime Stella efficiency.
Yeah, I just bought that, and I'd say that's worth it, and I don't spend a lot of money.
That just changed your
some
life.
Of those are game changing, and they're going to exponentially fuel your progression just from some of these very simple. It may seem arbitrary, but it's not. Some of these are very important.
Let me ask your opinion here, Handy, because this varies a little bit from player to player, but what we generally kind of settle on as the critical primes, in order of importance, we would say, prime officers is the first one, and then a split between your prime Borg refinery and your prime Stella efficiency, as being 2 and 3, and then the prime refineries for the 3-star max. That if there are those that you can get free to play, those are the ones you want to target first.
Right.
Would you agree with that list, or how would you
Absolutely.
tweak it?
No, I would totally agree with that. I would probably do the Borg one first, just because it's usually people are a little further along on that,
as opposed to
Stella. Yeah.
Well, they get the Vidar at 25 versus the Stella at 27, 28.
Right.
True. I have the same problem. It's been so long since I've been there. I forget, at what level the stuff in the 20s opens up.
Right. Well, I mean, I haven't been there in years, so.
But we were getting questions last week about, like, when do you get the not the rogue store, right? When the rogue store opens up, and like when you can get down to augment space, and I couldn't remember like how you got into there. Like, is it with missions or?
It was a mission.
Well,
Yeah, it
there
gets
was
unlocked by
a
mission.
mission. I think
Mission
that's one of
thing.
the things that they changed at one point too, because I think it was like different for those of us who were going in there in the early days versus some changes they made last year or whatever. So like they put the new missions in for players to be able to get their Stella parts and stuff, or the Stella prints or something like that.
So is it just
Um,
open now, or does it still require missions to enter?
I think that it still requires that you complete the mission chain, but I'm not sure. I think that my kid's account is getting there in an ops level or two, so I'll be able to refresh my memory when
There
he
you
has
go.
to go through all of it. He's like 23 or something like that now.
Are you
Cool.
playing his account still, or is he able to
I
stay
haven't
down?
I haven't started to yet, but I'm gonna be starting it up so that I can start getting him some progress and
You got
getting
him
him things
bubbled at
fixed a little
least.
bit. Oh
Nah, make
no,
him do it.
as a lesson in responsibility, I went ahead and let him get rated. Let me tell
Well,
you,
another thing to
if you knew the
consider is
GPA that he brought home this semester, you would understand my actions.
like I don't see a problem with grinding for somebody, but there are some things, some progression points in research and whatnot that people need to click those buttons themselves so that they know what they have and in what order, how it helps and whatnot. And
I
some of those
agree. That's
fundamental
why.
things might be lost if you were to do them for him. So I would just caution against doing any of that, but guide him, make him do it. And then like maybe grinding if you want to, go grind for him or stuff like that, or that would be awesome, right?
Yeah, my thought was that, like just get his daily events checked so he's, counting as an active player at that ops level and making the daily gains that he should be making. But I agree. I'm mindful of if you miss a section of your growth, it leaves you disconnected, in a way from the account that you'll always kind of have a little gap there.
Sure.
And I don't know how anybody else would approach that, but that would mess with me really, really hard. So
Mm-hmm.
It's like being
so
able to
no,
peel the
he's
plastic
gonna
off.
exactly. Like there's a something subtle about doing the initial setup yourself. Let's say, if you didn't set it up, it feels forward. If you walk through the process with whatever guided setup you're doing, then you feel like it's yours. So no, I'm not gonna level him up or progress him. He's just gonna tread water. And I'll be nice enough to let him, have some gains when he comes back in terms of, what he's got in RSS and that kind of thing. But that's all further
Or
I'll
go
go.
raid for him or something.
Mm-mm. I
Well,
barely have the patience to raid for myself, man.
Yeah, but the things people do for kids,
Well, I got 7 of them, so he only gets 1/7 of that effort.
Let's segue into
Tiger
crewing.
spread thin.
Did we lose our emperor?
Yeah,
Oh,
Sid said he had to go deal
Yeah.
with something. He'll be back in a bit.
okay.
But let's talk about crewing, shall we?
Somebody lost a lat node.
Huh?
No, I was just kidding. Go ahead. Crewing.
Okay.
Crewing. We're crewing now.
Oh, yes. Talking about crewing. Well, first of all, most current crewing. Handy, did you get Picard yet?
I've chosen to not get Picard, not try to get Picard now. And I'm going to wait until either they sell him in the store or I can get him naturally. At my level, the competition is so steep, I would have had to spend thousands. And not only that, he's basically just another Pike. So I already have a Pike. so I'm not missing anything per se. Although it would be nice to run 2 pikes so I don't have to repair my second grinding ship as much. But at the end of the day, I don't think anybody is missing anything. I don't know if I mean, nobody has him leveled up enough to know if he's way more effective than Pike. You know what I mean? So it's just going to take a while. The jury's still out for me how important he is. I just couldn't answer that question yet.
If you take a look at the general channel here on our Discord, Mistaken got Picard today and posted some screenshots comparing Picard with Beverly versus Pike and Morrow. Miss, do you want to talk more about your experience with him?
But what level does he have Pike at and Maroon as far as officer level?
I am bringing him to the chat. Just hit the green button and join us on the stage, Mist.
He's not going to do it.
I sent him the invite. Hit the green button.
Another weird thing is the events that were available for, I think it was 42 up. When they had the auctions, it was we only had first place, second place, and third place. Those were the only placements that got anything. So whereas the lower levels under 42 got 1 through 30 placement. So you could place lower in multiple auctions and still get him or get close or whatever. At my level, I didn't have that option. So that's why I chose early not to get involved.
All right. Miss can't speak, but he can type. He said his Pike is rank 4.
Okay. And what's his opinion on, like, did he hit the same exact hostile with the ship and did the different officers and kind of look at damage done or how much hull it took away or anything?
His Morrow's maxed. From the screenshots that he posted, you're welcome to take a look as well. It looked like he got less damage with Picard when he was using Chen. I don't know why he used Talon on a transport, but that gave him more damage.
Well, yeah, I don't know. I would say we probably don't have enough information to really form a good opinion yet.
True.
Now, I know Rev Deuce released a video. I have not watched it.
I saw it, but it was kind of... It's hard to follow him sometimes.
He what?
He's hard to follow sometimes. He goes off into tangents and stuff, and then it loses my attention. And then he's talking, and I'm not really focused on what he's saying.
Gotcha.
So, also, since we do have a lot of the younger members here, for people that don't have Pike, we posted this a very long time ago. So let me see if I can.
If you don't have Pike, you need to get him as soon as humanly possible. If you want to grind. I mean, I would even tell people, don't even bother grinding until you have Pike almost.
Well, you do have, for the pre-Pike people...
There are other options, I know. The cadets.
Well, you have the cadets, and then they also introduced the next-gen crew that have the same abilities as the cadets. So you actually have 2 sets of crews there to do dual grinding prior to getting Pike.
Right.
Granted, it's so different than the kind of grinding that you do with Pike. Then you also have the Armada crews. If you don't have 5 of 10 and you're doing Armada, it gets really hard. You really want to make sure that you are using faction credits to get the faction officers. Epic, Kirk, and Rare Spock make a huge difference on Armada.
But what would you guys suggest for the littles? Because they're not quite able to even grab those officers yet.
What do you mean? But what do we suggest by level? Like as far as what level get what officers, or what do you mean?
The thing is, with a lot of, basically, by the time you do an Armada, you should be level. You can't get the Armada Command Center until you're level 23. By 23, you should have Kirk and Spock. If you don't, then you're not using your faction credits appropriately. Or you have Kumak and Nero. You should have one of those combos.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Gives something more than just that.
You want to be using your faction credits to buy officer credits, basically, so that you can hit that button as much as you can to get those officers leveled up as fast as you
can. And to be honest, not to be an asshole or anything, but if you aren't at those levels, it really doesn't matter what officer set you send, your ship's going to die. We're happy to launch the Armadas. We're happy to help you get the Armada tokens for them, but your ship's going to die no matter what. If you're not even at 23 and you're going to an Armada. Is that too blunt?
Well, I mean, you don't really need to until then. Like, it's kind of part of the game progression.
But at least this way, if we start training at the lower levels, by the time they're jumping up and can do something, they'll know what to do when they have those chances to be in the Armadas, what crews to use, what ship's going to hit for a better damage that they may have access.
The best advice,
if I can jump in there,
is to just copy your fellow players. Once you join an Armada and you're in the Armada and it finishes, you can go to your battle log and you can look at the Armada and all the ships that were in it and what officers they were using and what ships they were using and what power they were, and et cetera, et cetera. So study those to help you get better.
In terms of figuring out how to crew for like level appropriate armadas before you have the officers that you see everybody using, Danny, I think what we can take to them is that there's officers that do work and there's officers that don't, and I think maybe that's your best starting point, is to go back to the lists that show what abilities do trigger, what abilities don't trigger, so they know what officers to avoid. Like, hey, it's a waste for me to try and put Chen, in an Armada scene because her ability's not going to trigger. So we can save them the headache of getting those painful lessons out of the way just by saying, okay, here's the list of officers that you don't send to an Armada under any circumstances. Here's the list of officers that their ability will work, which gives the player the ability to kind of play around with the crews on their own and experiment with what they do have until they're at a point that they've achieved what Cook and Handy are talking about, where they're ripping through their faction credits to get those officers unlocked. This gives them some information to navigate the in-between.
Yeah, that's kind of that's what I was aiming towards, because I remember when I was in the lower levels, the only reason I knew what to bring to our Armada when I first started was because I kept asking Cook what to put on it. But that was the only way I knew what it was Cook, what officer was it again? Which one? Okay, so I put these 3. And those are the only 3 I knew how to use.
Exactly. And that's the danger of just like Yeah. So, but I do also completely encourage people to do exactly what Handy said, and that's study the battle reports, because any of us at the top end of the alliance, that's how we make the choices that we make, and that's how we determine what we need to tweak or what results we're really getting. Is we're studying battle reports. That's what I do. That's what Cook does. That's what VR and YAR do. We're in there and we're looking at the numbers, because well, we are kind of math guys and we do want to excel at what we're doing. So
Gotta
we're
always keep
owning
that.
those battle reports. And
Yeah.
even if it's an officer pairing I previously haven't had success with, even if it's one that I personally had terrible results with, if I see something in there that leads me to believe, hey, this might actually work, even if it's situationally, that I grab it and I play around with it for a little while and I test it out in a couple of different ways and I keep it or I discard it. But that's if you really want to know, how to crew your ship. Andy's absolutely right. We got to go into the battle reports to be able to see that. And that's a continuing process. That's time and game, exposure. But we can definitely at least get information out there for them that says, hey, avoid these guys. Hey, some of these combinations, I don't want to go into too many permutations of officers because we'll lose people in complexity. But if we can just tell them, here's what does trigger, here's what doesn't trigger, and let them craft from there, I think that'll be the best way for them to be able to learn and become effective too, until the point that they can just copy what's happening in front of them.
And like what
Or
Andy was saying about
they can come up with correctness.
Yeah, Cook was saying earlier about those officers you want to go after, that Kirk and Spock officers are only available in the Federation faction store.
They're
So
not
that should
only
be one.
available, but the most focused there.
Yeah, well, they also come through your ultra pulls, but they're mixed in with 30 other different officers. And
30? I thought it was up to 100 now.
well, yeah,
Feels
probably.
like it.
But yeah, that's your best way to get them up to levels that they are really effective, is to just be dumping your Federation faction credits into these officer shards that you get. And if you make Federation one of your dual factions that you're working with, you can either pick Federation Klingon or Federation Romulan, that you start getting those credits in and just spend them on officers. Like that's just keep dumping them into officers, because it's going to take so many to get to. I don't even have those maxed yet. I've got Spock maxed and Kirk I don't have maxed yet. But yeah, those are the ones you're going to see on those battle reports most often. And like I think Tiger and some of those guys are using some of these new burning officers that they've released, but those aren't ones that you're going to get first. First is those two epics.
Well, I'll give you an example about the burning stuff. And honestly, this was stupid on me. I only just realized it the other day when we were doing our TC defense. But when you're using burning crews, or especially like battleships for them, you only have you have 3 burning crew officers, but the 2 they use most are going to be Nero and Giorgio. You have Chavanek as well, which is great because she goes, she'll hit battleships really well. And then if you're doing a TC defense, you have another hidden officer there in, who's it?
Ireland.
Yeah. So you think of
Same
her
one you
as
used
a
to mine
mining
for ISO.
Yeah. You think of her as mining for ISO, but you put her on your ship for defending a node, she will start burning on a TC defense node. And that's someone that a lot of people easily got during the Discovery arc. So
You get shards for now pretty easily weekly if you're in the level range for the Disco. That's the Sunday event.
yeah. That comes around much more reliably than the Cosmic Cleanup one. Weren't they supposed to make Cosmic Cleanup like an every Saturday thing?
It It is, or has been for the most part. They just there's certain weeks where they shut it down. Like, notice there's a sarcophagus pack available currently, so we won't have cosmic cleanup this week.
Yeah, God forbid they give us that when they're already overloading us with a shitload of events on the weekend.
Yeah. You hit what you want to hit, and you get rewarded if you're committed enough to do them all. I mean, that has to do with your growth rate. If you wanna slow play and grow casually, don't feel pressured to hit every single event that's presented to you. Be choosy about what events are impactful for you, and decide if there's things you can skip. Feel free to skip them. It's not going to kill you. It's not like one day of events is the end of the world. But then there's that extra carrot out there for everybody else who just absolutely has to check all of the boxes. Tiger. So
another real quick thing I wanted to mention before I forget that I feel is extremely important is if you go into your factions tab and go to your rogue and your augment, they have office packs there. There's the outlaw recruit, and then under augment there's your augment recruit, and awoken augment recruit. And if you do not have those officers maxed out, you should be hitting all those buttons every day. Because that's the only way you're going to max those officers.
I'll admit the regular ones I have, aside from Khan, but the awoken ones I haven't touched in months.
Dude, they give stats like crazy, pound
They
for
do.
pound.
I have those officers.
Either one of those stores is better than anything you get out of an ultra pack that's comparable rarity.
Right. And
So,
I've maxed the pan crew out. It's phenomenal. And they're extremely beefy officers. They're excellent for away missions.
Oh, so that's what you're mostly using them for? Is the away missions?
Pretty much.
So it's worth the independent credits to max them?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Now, naturally, you prioritize your promotions. So don't just go promoting an officer the second it's promotable. You save that stuff for event scoring when you can and stuff like that.
Yeah,
but
there's going to be other officers. There's going to be other officers you want to promote first before those, but you can still get shards for them, right? So even if you don't upgrade them right away, at least you have them theoretically maxed out. Like, I have plenty of officers that I have all the shards for, maxed them yet, because they're independent or they're Borg, and they take a ton of resources that take a long time to accrue. So just kind of prioritize which officers are the most important for you. Don't just, when you get some of these niche officers that take a ton of resources, especially the Borg ones, you really got to be picky and choosy on which ones you upgrade first.
Yeah.
Is there a trick on?
What's that?
We lost your audio.
Oh, I was just talking about how much I hate mining data.
Yeah. No, that's the thing that you need to get these augment, especially con. Like, you want to be pulling those cons every day, and they take so much data that it's just nauseating, but you got to do it. It's just
I hate that more than Borg probes.
Yeah.
I think you're right. I think you've
active mining is the worst thing in the world, and everybody.
Why did they change it?
When they do, I don't know. They suck, and there's only one system you should be using to mine your data, and that's the one that has the larger nodes. If some people don't know about it, you need to know about it, or you should be mining. I think the nodes are a little bit slower, but you don't you don't have to sit there and swap your miner out every 3 seconds. You know what I mean? So there's Olasa. It's a level 33 system. It's a little offshoot. And Olasa, their nodes are, I think, 25K or 30K or something like that. 40K. I'm sorry. They're 40K. And I think their base is like 200 an hour or something.
Okay, I've been mining in Ilmatar. I just go to Ilmatar and do like 3 rotations on a node while I'm hunting hostiles in the morning.
Yeah, I've been doing the Yarda thing, and it's annoying.
Oh, I hate Yarda.
Well, I think the nodes are smaller, aren't they? Or
Yeah,
they're
they're 9-second nodes.
They're 60.
Elementar's
Okay,
60.
so they actually this, but it used to be that Ilmatar had small nodes. When did they change that? I didn't even know that actually.
That was it's the 35 in between the two. I think that one's been that way almost the whole time. I don't remember there being fast nodes in that system.
No, it's not fast.
I know that the
takes
systems
like
that bracket it are both fast node systems. So like the highest level, the 36, there is a fast node. So it's bracketed by fast nodes, but I think it's always been
back in the day
slow
they were
nodes
all
when they,
small nodes.
Yeah,
They
when
were
they,
all
yeah, when they
tiny.
when they first came out, they were all like fast nodes. And then their first patch after the first like wave of player bitching, I think their response was to like mix it up and leave some systems as fast nodes, and then some systems as more of the old rate, but still a lot faster. So whenever that patch went through or that change went through, I think that's when this one started doing
it's
60K
those
nodes.
60K nodes that you can mine in like 12 to 15 minutes. So I just
At any rate, that is frustrating regardless of which node you pick, but the active mining is just awful. To have to sit there, literally stare at your miner and click buttons all day is the worst.
And then watch out for people OPL hunting.
Yeah.
And that's pretty much been eradicated that I know of.
Well, people start to.
Well, no one's going to hit a level 50. They're scared of you.
Yeah.
Oh, we hit key more than a few times.
Well, no one's really
So what can you get your protected cargo up on your
What's the protected
your
cargo?
Botany Bay? Like your protected cargo up on your Botany Bay? Because
I have no idea, to be totally honest. I haven't looked at it in so long.
People are hitting OPL, and you need so much data that you'd have to make several trips a day out there.
I mean, I know it's like 2/3 of my cargo is protected. I know that. I just forget how big the cargo bay is.
Yes, I stopped upgrading my Botany Bay when they made these changes. I just quit doing it because I've been doing the fast node thing, and it is nauseating. But I can fill my whole cargo up, like 350,000. Do that twice, and I've got like a week's worth or 5 days worth or something.
Yeah, but when you need to do so much data for the rogue store plus the augment store, you're talking about like 100,000 a day of data.
But when you're lower level and you're progressing, it's just important. You just can't skip it. You got to do it.
That's why the only thing I really
you can't even buy it. You can't even buy them, can you?
No.
No.
Yeah. So you have to do it.
Yeah, it's something you got to grind.
Basically, once I maxed the regular augment officers, I was just like, I'm just going to focus on my rogue store.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I haven't mined data in, I think, about 6 months. And I have not clicked any buttons that take data. But I have all those officers completely maxed, every single one. So,
what about for the rogue store? Don't you need it for the armadas?
Not really, but that's just because I get into every single armada, so I get the credits just from running armadas, right?
Oh, so you just never run the armadas?
I mean, I run armadas, but I get credits to run armadas just from defeating armadas.
Yeah.
So you get directives just from defeating armadas, like epic directives and whatnot.
What does Khan's critical hit chance get up to next?
Max for him is... Pull it up. I don't remember off the top of my head. Okay, so Khan's critical is 5% cumulative.
There you go. There's something to look forward to.
And then 50% chance to reduce the mitigation.
Of course, that goes up to when you have synergy. That goes up from there, like up to like 90%, something like that.
It's 100%.
Is it 100%? Oh.
Yeah, full synergy is 100%.
But if you ever want to see any officers maxed, just let me know. I can always screenshot it for you. The only officers I don't have maxed, obviously, are the newer ones. But all the OG ones I have maxed. But a lot of that information is available on LCARS too, of course. So
yeah.
If anybody listening does not have the server for LCARS, hit up one of the Commodores in a PM or something, and we will get you a link to get over there and do what we can to guide you through that. Because if you're not on LCARS and you're serious about playing the game pretty regularly, I'd recommend learning how to use it.
Actually, if you go to the other servers channel under Knowledge is Power category, the first link there is to the LCARS channel. There's also the official Star Trek Fleet Command server, and then you have RevDeuce, Jaeger, and STFC Officer Tool. All the helpful channels.
all the good stuff.
And so anybody in the audience there have any questions?
Yeah.
Just raise your hand.
Hey, Kemsol, are you enjoying Dark with Baby Dark with Zap? Okay.
Are they typing in the channel?
Yeah, he's typing.
Now he is. I said, how's Baby Dark compared to IMM?
Did you leave behind your respect and manners?
We got Frank typing too.
Yeah.
Suspenseful.
Oh, he's just thanking everybody for answering his questions.
Do you want to move to Dark Space then, unless somebody else has another question?
No, we can always go back and answer questions. Yes, Dark Space.
Dark Space.
Oh, right. Sid's not even here for that. He's the one who asked me to bring it up.
Yeah.
Who did?
Sid asked me to talk about Dark Space, mainly for the members of Dread. Because they were asking today.
Yeah, but they can always come back and listen to it.
True.
I'm sure anybody can form good questions about it.
Yes. So there's been a lot of discussions about deep space, dark space, whatever you want to call it. And and the basis of it is it is pretty much full row out there now. the gentleman's agreement was disbanded in a sense. We only added 5 minutes to the O node, but we also said, don't be a dick. If there's no nodes available, then go ahead and hit someone for a node. If there are nodes available, just take the other node. Don't be an asshole about it.
Essentially, though, how everybody's playing and kind of enforcing it is there's no OPL hunting in deep space. I don't actually agree with it, but that is how we're asking our players to play and enforcing it. Mainly because we don't want the salt.
Exactly. And I agree with that.
Most alliances are just so used to the idea of not getting hit for OPL in deep space that they just can't reconcile it. And they're getting very, very upset when they do get hit. So
I haven't been hit one time the entire time that I've been out in deep space. Not one team has hit me.
I've only been hit
I'm
twice.
pretty shocked that it showed up that way.
And in the lower systems where they're a lot more crowded, just assume that you're going to get hit. Don't go away OPL. I mean, if you go 20, 30K, 50K OPL, you're probably safe. But if you go grocery OPL, you're probably going to get hit by somebody. I mean, even though it's still kind of taboo, it still happens because it is not against the road. Technically.
Sure, but I also feel like you kind of deserve it if you go that high OPL.
I would agree with you, but MCRN, most NBD, et cetera, they're all kind of enforcing the no OPL hitting. So, if it's a member from a big alliance, it's probably not worth it, to piss them off. Some players don't care. You could always learn who those players are that just don't care. And if they get hit, they're not going to send you a message and cry about it. But a lot of players will. So if you want to avoid that, then just don't hunt OPL. If you want to stir a bunch of stuff up, start a war, and go hunting. I don't know. It's unfortunate.
I hope
that's kind of how it is right now.
I hope all of our listeners in Dead understood that to be that option A. It's option A. Do not hit OPL.
Yeah, nobody wants to deal with those PMs. Trust me.
Yes.
Cook's going to make them talk to me, and then I have to... No. Option A.
Well, I'll just laugh at all of you.
I've gotten some of the worst notes back from people that I've rated.
If I could read the future, I would probably say that eventually deep space will get normalized, just like the upper level 3-star systems did. I mean, there was some growing pains there. People got very upset when they got hit OPL. And now it's just normal. So when enough people get to level 40, it's just going to be normal. It just will. So, because you can't police it anymore. So as long as people are able to police it, and basically, I mean, essentially, they're just strong-arming people, right? They're literally saying, don't hit my guys or else. And that's essentially what's happening, right? But at some point, there's going to be so many people up there that it cannot be policed like that. You'd be in Discord all freaking day long arguing with people about getting hit OPL. So when it gets to that point, people are just going to throw their hands up and say, OPL's OPL. I don't want to hear about it. So when that happens, it'll, be open. But until then, people are going to cry about it.
And I would postulate that that's going to happen pretty fast once it starts happening. I think that since the server's already been through that with, G3 space, G4 space is going to normalize pretty quick compared to what was happening before. Because I think a lot of people, because they've all been through it, you guys were all there dealing with it the first time. So
and eventually
the tank is
it
going to
will
fill a little faster.
Can we ban Killsmo from going to dark space?
Killsmo is stopping to max every one of his ships. He has banned himself and doesn't even know it.
I have an OPL question.
Yeah, he'll be there for a while.
Okay, John.
Even some of the very avid OPL hunters are not hunting space, just because it's just not worth it.
Okay, I have a question.
Well, another thing to consider about deep space is 4-star material, or ore, crystal, and gas are not the limiting factor in deep space. So for upgrading your ships and whatnot, if you need ship parts is usually the limiting factor. So you're going to run out of ship parts, and that's what you're going to be grinding for, and not hunting, and not mining a whole bunch. You're going to mine enough to do like a minimum refine, and that's about it. And typically that's going to get you enough of the materials to do your buildings as you do them, to upgrade your ships as you have the materials to do so. So it's not as much of a factor for most people.
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah. Hey, John.
Go ahead, John.
Do you have an OPL question?
Yeah, I'm constantly getting hit whether I'm OPL or not when I'm on a node. And I usually get all my resources in between all the factions in that space. Is that what you call deep space?
No, deep space is warp 65 and higher.
Oh, okay.
You can't actually hit. You can't get there until you hit level 38.
Okay, so at the level I'm at, like I said, I'm constantly getting hit. Am I allowed to hit people on nodes and Federation space, or
if it's you go to standard row. So if they're 0 node or they are over their protected limit, then yes, you can hit them.
Okay, that's
0. You have to give a warning.
Yes, for 0 nodes you have to give a warning. For OPL, you do not. Although, if you do not want to ruffle feathers, you could always send a message for OPL as well.
Okay, because I get messages.
Have a heart next to them, don't touch them at all.
Yeah, right. I get messages all the time. I thought those people were just being dicks, but they were warning me that's the rule.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
Go ahead and read.
If they
the
don't
row.
give you a warning, then you can go and call it a dry hit. Because when we started doing those, it's because the game doesn't give very good notifications when you depleted a node, and so people wouldn't know that they were on an O node, and people needed to mine on those nodes. So we said, well, you have to send a message with a 1-minute warning to give people a heads up, because maybe they're like distracted or something. And trust me,
the deal with the notifications, guys, if you want to know why that is, it's not the game, it's your phone. So it's your
I get
phone
notifications all the
into
time.
a mode where it's not getting the alert.
Right. Well, let me just say real quick before I turn my mic off. Thank you guys for letting me be part of this, and I've learned a lot tonight, actually. So thank you guys.
Good. You're welcome. That's what we're here for. That's the whole point of this whole thing, is to help teach everyone and give them a better understanding of the game and the community.
Right. I've learned a lot of stuff I didn't even know tonight. Awesome. Thank you guys.
And also, for anyone who didn't know, that's a broom on a wall. I know it doesn't look like it, but it's a broom on a wall.
Remember how long it took us to figure that out?
Oh my god!
I thought it was a peach.
I've known that almost the entire time, and still every time I see his profile picture, I'm like, wait, what?
Yeah, I do the same thing. Gets me every time.
I'm sure that's why he did it, though.
He said it's a conversation piece.
It is definitely a conversation piece.
I never would have guessed that. I thought it was a peach.
So we were talking about the power level of different epics, and we were talking about the Augur being the strongest, and then the Enterprise being the most versatile. From a grind perspective, I want to point out what I've observed since I've gotten to the low 40 systems, especially lower faction space. Is I see a lot of places where Explorer is favored. And I imagine that's largely because the first ship when Dark Space was first opened up was the Big Jelly. So with that being an Explorer, I see a lot of interceptors out there. I see a lot of things that are geared towards Explorer, and I think that's one thing to hit on with the Enterprise, and why I think a lot of players in the lower 40s are banging on, hey, get your Enterprise filled out before you really try to make a jump, is that like with the Augur, I find myself very system limited for my grinding currently. If I don't want to be spending consumables every day to be able to hit all the markers that I need to hit or want to hit to call my day complete. So that's just something to think about that I want to hang out there while we're on the topic of Dark Space.
I would agree exponentially with that. As someone who literally moves his base to Dark Space every single morning to hit, just so I can be able to hit the ships that I need to be able to hit for my dailies.
Well, for starters, do it an hour before event turnover, and then you only have to do it every other time.
True.
Well, and that's something to consider. That's also something to consider before either leveling up or leveling up your rep. Is it's going to change what ships you need to hit for your dailies. So a lot of people choose to keep the rep lower so that they don't have to, they don't have to go to deep space when they're at that weird transition level.
I think that's exactly the idea, that there's like a sweet spot both for repping up and for pushing your ops level up. And we'll say that hey, push to 39, but it's a qualified push to 39, just like pushing your rep up to a certain point is qualified. It's the right answer, but it's not the right answer if you're not in position to pull it off. And in my personal position, I can manage where I'm at just fine, but I'm rather annoyed that I overlooked a couple of things that stop me from being like really efficient in the way that I want to be. So my repair costs are higher than they should be because I'm not able to just grind through it properly. I have to be selective with targets, or my daily takes extra time because I wasn't prepared for a certain factor. And I guess the idea there is make sure that you're ready to take the step forward. You can easily cover what's in front of you before you follow the advice to get to a certain point.
And with that note, Tiger, I know you're always telling people to know their zero when it comes to their credits.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's something, if you want to mention it again, because I was looking through our ranks and we have quite a bit of people in like the 26, 27 range. So they're going to be hitting the spot where they can get these, or they should be saving for some of their ships.
Okay, so when I talk to, or when I make comments about like new zero or know your zero, we're talking about like faction credits and things like that. When you have a goal of hitting a ship at a certain level, or of being able to make a power jump so that you can start covering the stuff that's in front of you, you want to make sure that you've got enough credits in your pocket at the appropriate time to be able to roll the ship you're going to need to make your next step in progression. So if you're a lower 20s player and you're following the advice that, hey, I don't really need to invest in these common ships, I pay attention to my specialties and I skip my 26 factions, my new for faction credits is whatever it's going to take me to get the faction ship of my choice at 28. And that should be something like 20K, 18K, something like that, I think, for those ships. So you want to not necessarily hold all of your credits until you get to that point, because you do still want to get those officers built up. They will last longer than the ship you're trying to get to, I promise you. But you want to keep an eye towards hitting marker ships like that.
Well, you can also,
so that you can make your next step.
You can do the math kind of backwards and figure out, you can even just do it based off your own play style, not off the max that you can get daily, but go off how much you actually get. So don't spend any Federation. Don't spend any faction credits for a week. Take a screenshot of where all your credits are at. Play for a week, and then go and take another screenshot and see how much you gained. And then that's going to tell you your personal average progression, typically, in any typical week. And that'll kind of tell you how much you usually get throughout the week with events and your dailies and going and hunting scouts and etc.
Yeah, you need 20,000.
Based on your own gameplay, how much time you typically invest in the game. And that'll tell you, how much you're going to have. So if you estimate that you want to be at a certain level in 3 months, then you're going to know how many faction credits of a particular faction you're going to have after 3 months. And then you can base that on, well, if I have 20K now and I'm going to get another 20K by the time I'm going to make this move, then I can afford to spend 10K of it. So that's another way to do it.
And I really suggest the Saladin as your 28 ship. But of course, you can get whatever you want.
And Saladin's a great ship. And it will carry you quite a ways. All the way up to 39, really. People use maxed out Saladins all the time.
Yeah, I see it all the time. So you would max Saladin?
I maxed mine, yeah, I never regretted it.
I love
and
that.
I leveled up very quickly. And I still had a lot of use for Saladin up until I got my Epic Smack.
I mean, I have a really rough time cracking in the bases that have Saladins docked because of their
they're a great defense ship. Because typically people are going to use their hardest hitting ship, right? Well, what's best against hard hitting ships? Like battleships, interceptors. So you got to take your battle triangle into account. You're setting up a defense for your base, as it plays a huge part. That's why Chef built Kelvin to protect his base.
I still can't get over he built 2 of them, though.
But you got to understand, Chef was getting hit every single second of every day that he was unshielded. So it was incredibly important for him.
Every second of the day, I would consider 2 Kelvins myself.
That happens to me every time my shield goes down. Like somebody from Dark hits me, so now I've got a couple of the guys messaging me first.
Well,
before they go to raid me.
to everybody listening, don't let your shield drop where Dark can see you. Just stop that.
Serious.
Yeah, and don't let your shield drop in exchange space. In fact, don't even go to sleep in exchange space. Move your base out of there. Exchange space is the number one place to get raided.
It's my favorite place to raid. Now you just gave it away.
It's your number one place to raid. It's everyone's number one place to raid. It is a terrible place to get raided in.
If you're lower level, it's a terrible place to move your base, really.
Yeah.
And the warp range isn't that much different being just outside exchange space. I mean, the amount of people that actually check the systems just outside exchange space is going to dramatically decrease. So,
yeah.
Go to the closest places that people aren't.
That's why I always say, stay the hell out of exchange space with your base. Almost every time someone's getting raided, I look and, hey, look, it's exchange space. And I'm like, are you kidding me?
But if you want to see some neat dust-ups, keep your eye on those systems every once in a while.
That is true.
I was a fly on the wall for a lot of us were actually for that exchange between who was it? Was it Dark and Dark and MCRN? and then some Nona ships started showing up, and there was a lot of fur flying that day. That was fun.
That's my favorite PvP though. Is like when somebody's defending their base or their buddy's base or something.
Yeah, because it's a
And
free
that's the
pass
fun.
to blow up whoever you want. You know.
It's the
Yeah.
whole reason we built the ships. That's why we're here.
Yeah. Took us a year to build a ship to get to use it finally.
Hey, like Tiger always says, why do people always complain when they build a ship just to go boom?
Yeah, but the whole philosophy of like I hear a lot of people talking about like I'm just gonna go kill your ship at random. Like, you know, if my ship's bigger than yours, I'm just gonna go blow it up. You know, I guess that's what Rev Deuce does. He just flies around and just kills people's ships all day for no reason.
There are actually a lot of servers like that. Well, not a lot. I would say from what I've experienced in talking to people, because I've talked to a lot of people from different servers now doing the Trek Talk show. But a lot of them seem maybe like 25% of servers, maybe 30% of servers are a free for all and just pirate servers. And their populations are typically lower because it's not very conducive to growth, right? So those servers are ones that get merged in with others. So the likelihood's probably pretty high that if and when we do get a merger, and I believe that we will get one eventually, could be soon, maybe not, I don't know yet, but when it happens, likelihood's pretty high that it'll be a server like that. You know, and that's even more reason to treat people well on this server. You know, we've been playing together a long time. A lot of situations we're like family, and treat everybody well. That's important.
You know, if we do get a merger, I would be with it. It would have to be with a smaller one, server, because it wouldn't be one that's like ours, because things would get really crowded. Like, things feel a
Exactly.
little bit crowded now.
Which increases the likelihood that it would be a pirate server.
I have to say though that I've played a number of different like multi-server games like this, and most other platforms allow you to have like inter-server conflict and things like that. And of all the games that I've played in for any substantial amount of time, this server here, man, I would love to take this entire server and just go beat the tar out of another server for a week or two. Really feel like
we're very united over the last year.
Definitely.
Since TC started and whatnot.
Yeah, I mean, just looking at this,
a lot of cooperation, a lot of people becoming friends across, quote unquote enemy lines, and that's really cool to see.
Yeah, just look at our relationship with Tank.
Yeah, how that started, and now how it is now.
Yeah,
I'm
our
sorry.
relationship with Tank was terrible before.
The entire concept of what we're doing with territory is singular. Like, I've never seen a server band together and decide that, hey, we're going to take this game-changing, timeline-altering section here and give it to everybody and create a rotation and all of that.
There are a couple servers
that was
who have
because
done
our
crazy
hatred for Scopely was higher than our wish to fight each other.
I mean, my hat's off to you, Handy, on that one as the guy in the middle there. That was, I mean, to everybody that was a part of that cook. I know you were there too. Like, holy crap, man, that's awesome.
It was really awesome to see, and it went even more smoothly than I could have even imagined. Everybody really stepped up and did an awesome job. And
I think that
continuing to do an awesome job.
I think that has a lot to do with what you touch on there with like how people are willing to set things aside and people become friends and the server's trying to be cool with one another. I think that's a lot of the reason why, because everybody at the top went, okay, hey, let's try this.
Right. Yeah, I mean,
and it's built up a lot of good friendships too, I think.
Oh yeah, of course. I mean, it's easy to just look inward in your own alliance. Make friends with just the people in your alliance, but I would encourage everybody to focus outside your alliance, because as a whole, it's going to improve the server, it's going to improve your gameplay, going to make it more fun. Yeah.
I miss the help resets, like before they took those away, because
Oh God, I miss
doing
that.
all those exchanges was a lot of fun. Like going and visiting
to go
other
visit other
alliances
teams.
and stuff.
Well, you can still do that. Nothing's stopping you from
Yeah,
doing
nothing is stopping you from doing that at all. But
I mean,
like
But
I
they've
haven't
taken
done
away
it
one of the
since.
main motivations. Therefore,
Yeah.
people are a lot less likely.
Yep, this having a purpose to do it is kind of you throw yourself in there and you end
Yeah,
up
I
having
mean,
a pretty good experience.
it's hard to get anybody to do anything in this game without a purpose, a reason. I mean, this game's so focused on you got to spend your time to further your gameplay, to progress, to improve your team, to improve your relationship with other teams. That a lot of times it doesn't leave a whole lot of room for the other fun stuff. But try and make a nice balanced gameplay for yourself and have a good time. I mean, if you're not having fun, you're doing something wrong.
Yeah, the truth.
Yeah, that's definitely true. There was something. Totally forgot what I was going to say.
Do we have any more questions about Deep Space?
I do not think so.
Yeah, I mean, for the people that didn't catch it earlier or don't know, that Deep Space are systems that you can, that are higher warp range that you cannot see unless you're in the system. So similar to territory capture, but other end of the map. All those systems up there that are higher warp range that you cannot see into unless you warp in. Those are considered deep space or dark space or whatever.
In watching your team engage with these new G4 armadas, what can you tell us about what Nona's learned hitting these higher power targets?
That they're very much so geared towards the 4-star ships. And you want to kind of focus on your warp speed when you get to 40 up. And get all your warp speed research done as much as you can, at least until your level block, so that you can get to these armadas without summoning. Because summoning, is nice and all, but it's unsustainable, right? So, make sure your warp speed's increased. Also, for alliances that have players in deep space running armadas there, make sure you announce what level the armada is and what type. Is it common? Is it rare? Or is it epic? Because that tells people information that they need to know. They can't see the armada. They don't know what you just started. So you need to tell people in your alliance so that they can send the appropriate ship and crew. So
yeah.
Especially for alliances that are running more than one armada at a time. If one's an epic and one's an uncommon, you're going to send your strongest ship to the epic, and that's information that people need to know. So you got to announce it.
So we recently did our first deep space armada, and by recently I mean last night. And it took like a week just for me to get 6 of our deep space able bodies coordinated enough to get there. And then
because there's 7 of us.
Yes, there's only 7 of us, and it took 5 hits to get it down.
Oh, jeez. Well, that
to be fair, like the first
planning
tip, there was
your
only
cruise
4 of us.
Yeah,
that comes back to planning your cruise out and using the appropriate ships. I mean, really, for deep space armadas, you're going to have to just jellyfish up. They're really geared toward 4-star ship.
Ironically, none of us have a jellyfish.
And that's probably why it took 5 hits.
It's not ironic. Not many of us have been 39 for, but 2.5, 3 months. So
Is that a research that unlocks those paths or a mission?
It's a mission at 38.
Yeah, and you'll get a special token to unlock it or whatever through mission chain.
I have a question though about the Franklin A. When does that start becoming useful? I was so excited to get it.
Franklin A is always useful. It's going to be a little more powerful than the regular one. So even hitting regular swarm, you should be using a Franklin A.
Yeah, I can hit the regular swarms, but I can't. I can only carry like 40,000.
Well, that is a downside. That's true.
So I'm using my Burrell now. So now I was like all excited to get this Franklin A. Like I built it. It took all this
the
platinum.
Reason the Franklin A is great is the biomaterials that it opens up, because the rate that you get RSS and tokens from that thing daily is critical in being able to build up your speed through different buildings.
But a tier 1 Franklin A can only kill 2 35s. Like, and I didn't even try to kill a 37.
Well, what's your research at, and what's your Franklin A at?
Franklin A is just tier 1, level 5. I don't have enough of my frequency mods converted over to get enough of the new ones, the MK2s.
Well, what level are you?
Is your research maxed for 35 against swarms?
Possibly not.
If all of your researches are not maxed, you're going to struggle against the stuff that Franklin A is designed to hit. So save your don't get too disappointed in it yet. Get those researches complete in the Galaxy tab there, and then load up with your best swarm crew. Pump your backline with as much health and defense as you can. If you got Jayla, awesome. If you didn't, run to land. And just see where it gets. It's a costly ship at first, but with the researches that are in front of you between now and 39, you're going to find the RSS that it gets you through your daily polls to be really, really important. To me, it's a dilithium lifeline for me.
Oh yeah, me too. And you need that steel that it gives so bad.
Yeah, at my level, I think it gives me 100 dilithium. 100 dilithium, I get like 1.1 billion or 2 billion pars.
Yep, there's this weak points and jammers that I haven't. The research I haven't done yet. That I'm looking at.
You got to do all that.
The last level or 2 of that research is huge, because that's where the last like really impactful bonuses are stacked.
So I should be able to, with a tier 1 or tier 1 Franklin, be able to do my swarms.
I think out of the box, when I got my Frank A at 37 or 38 or whatever, because I was able to scrap day 1 when they released it. I think that it was 2 runs with PMT, and I could get through the dailies I had to hit with that and still cover, because I got the ×3 bonus or whatever per the Frank A. So I made 2 runs into the 37, the first level, the big ones pop up. I made 2 runs into that space, bit down on the repair and the trick cost, and kind of pushed it forward as much as I could. It's you got to be patient at first. It is painful at first, but once you get it, so you can get 2 officers on the back row, then you can start to really see some return from it. But it's like any other ship in this game. You have to put a certain amount of work into it before it's what everybody else is talking about, because they're sitting at 15 or 20, or you look at higher ranked alliances, they're much bigger. But For our range, nobody's bigger than 15 at this point, and it's that 10 to 15 range that we're all talking about when you're like, holy crap, this is beautiful.
Well, yeah, and another thing you got to understand is the Frank A is I would call it a generational ship. Like, it's kind of a hybrid 3-star, 4-star. So
Just like the North Star
each
was.
level you level it up is a much bigger difference than a typical ship. So just going from level 5 to level 10 is a huge jump as far as how effective it is.
Well, can't keep stressing this research enough.
And it's all about the research.
Hey, Sid's back.
Oh, he did come back.
Welcome back, Sid.
Invite him.
Oops.
Oh, he quit.
No,
Yeah,
that was
invite
me.
him.
I accidentally moved him back to audience. My bad.
My captain.
You should be able to come up now.
Yeah, hit the green button, Sid. I won't touch it again.
Up, there he goes. No, just kidding. He's muted. Give him a
Unmute.
second.
There you go.
Too many buttons.
We have royalty back.
Yeah.
We already
you
discussed
had questions about Dark Space.
Not specifically questions. I just wanted to. I was hoping more of my guys would show up, but I see nobody came. But
Well,
no, they were down there before.
Oh, okay.
We're a bunch of old men talking around a campfire right now. We're just meandering through whatever comes to mind. But we're recording so they can reference later. We did talk about it for some time there.
Gotcha. Yeah, so a couple of my guys were asking about like hitting ships way out there, and I was like, well, I know they had the gentleman's agreement and then they ended it, but I hadn't really heard anything much afterwards, so I started asking around, and wow, I got a wide variety of answers, and it was actually quite impressive at how different every group is. So after thinking about it for a few minutes, I'm like, shit, I got like a page and a half of notes of who wants what, who does this, who doesn't care, who really cares. And I'm like, shit, it's just going to be easier to just say, don't do it. It's not a good idea right now. Don't want to draw too much attention to us. And I don't want to have an exhaustive list put out so that people have to keep track of, okay, can I hit them? Can I not? Who can I do this to? Who can I do that to? It just, everything gets muddy after a while, and then somebody will slip up somewhere. And, it's just easier to just avoid it altogether. So.
Yeah, you kind of hit the nail on the head, and I've been recommending that people do just that for now. And I've been trying to talk to the different leaderships and whatnot, and eventually, after I pester people enough, I think eventually like OPL hunting will be allowed in deep space, but it's going to take some time. And we touched on it earlier as well.
Do you remember when they first increased the amount of nodes in a bunch of G3 systems in like middle range space for that level range? They're like they doubled the nodes or whatever.
Yeah, that was like I want to say like back in September.
It was shortly after when the nodes kept disappearing and then wouldn't recycle or wouldn't show back up. It was right when that passed into that back, terrible glitch period. And then when you didn't have to reset systems to see nodes again, they shortly after that, they put out a whole bunch more nodes in really accessible zones. And I think that's when some of the higher ones got better too, but I don't know. I couldn't reach them at that point. But I think that's going to happen eventually in G4 space when player population gets to a certain point. And I think about the same time our server will hit that kind of boiling point that Andy was talking about earlier, where it'll kind of self-regulate and become normal row, and yeah, Scopely will eventually respond to everybody complaining about how few G4 nodes there are versus how many people there are that need them, and they'll double them up, and we'll go to normal shit, and it'll be just like G3 space now. And until then, I think it's great to hear that multiple admirals and commodores from big alliances are saying just don't rock the boat, don't piss people off if you can avoid it, and don't be that guy.
Right, and I think some of my guys, because the G3 material like bottleneck is very real for a lot of ships and for a very great deal of people, so they have that desire to go get as much as they can, whereas with the G4 you really don't have the bottleneck with the materials, it's the refined ship parts. So it's kind of reverse. So I think they're still stuck in the mindset of I got to go get as much of this shit as I can and just blast everybody, even if it's for 100 or 200 or whatever. And it's like, well, you don't need to do that, because when you can actually mine that and need it, you're gonna mine so much of it, you're not gonna have the desire to go just blast every ship you can. So,
hey, one other thing that just popped in my mind. Never, ever build until they fix them. Do not build faction 4-star miners. Don't build them. Like I heard Red Deuce say, "Oh yeah, when you get mid 40s, no, fuck that. Don't build it ever. They're a waste of resources."
Yeah. From what I've heard, they're just ludicrously expensive to replace or to repair, and if they do get blowed up,
the new research is kind of changing everything too.
Like I would only build it once I was level 50 and had every research I could do to bring the costs down of building it and leveling it, and I'm still not there. So
which would you say costs more to do, a faction miner or a tribune?
Still a tribune, but the faction miners are incredibly expensive. All 4-star ships are expensive, but as you go up, I would probably compare a faction miner to the rares, as far as resources needed.
Okay.
And just regular refining and clicking. I mean, I click my refine button, my minimum refine for survey parts twice a day, and I still think my Hydra's at like second tier. So they've literally set it up to where you're not getting what you need to upgrade a 4-star miner unless you're building a bunch of cavorts and scrapping them, or you literally got to build a whole bunch of 4-star or 3-star faction miner, scrap them to get anywhere close to getting what you need to upgrade a 4-star miner, or you're spending a ton of money.
Yeah, but how easy is G3 materials in the 40s to come by? Because I mean,
you get it at a pretty steady pace, just from some events here and there, buying packs, whatever, but mainly you're going to get it from scrapping. So your post level 39, so level 40 up, you're really going to get all your G3 from scrapping 2-stars, or just waiting till you get it naturally from refining. But as we all know, we only refine for it. We have no missions that gives us any G. You're not going to get it too quickly.
Yeah, because I know you talk a lot about maxing G3 ships, like Enterprises and stuff, but it's like, well, how many of those were you able to max but after you went to 39?
Well, see, I've spent all my G3 as I've been going on the uncommons and rares G3 ships because I was able to scrap those. You can only scrap the epics once you get to level 50. So now I'm focusing on leveling up and building epics, extra epics. I think I have a couple maxed out augurs. I think I have like 4 enterprises, only like 2 of them are maxed out. And since I just went to level 50, I'm starting to scrap those now. But scrapping is the main mechanic to level up your 4-star ships. And it's just a chain. You start with your 2-star, you scrap those to get 3-star materials, and then you scrap those 3-star ships to get your 4-star.
Here's what I'm curious about there. What is the vehicle at a higher ops level that's most efficient to generate the prints necessary to get the 2-star ships at the beginning of that chain?
Well, that's a good question, and I'm not sure. I think a free-to-play player at like level 40, level 41 or something, those go get them free-to-play players would be a much better person to ask. For me, I just have a ridiculous amount of blueprints for every 2-star ship. And I've never really built them and scrapped them because I haven't needed to. I buy a lot of packs, so I get a lot of 3-star materials. Just, it's kind of they're just in the packs also, for all the 4-star stuff.
They kind of pile up the way that stuff in the 30s gives you 2-star materials that just never seem to cease.
Right.
Yeah, I got
but
you.
I've definitely spent them all. I run out constantly. But
yeah, I've spent the money on the monthly pack for probably more months than I haven't, counting my early game time, and that's where a lot of my 2-star just never seems to go away, despite the fact that I scrap them all the time. And that's pretty much it. Yeah. So if it's about the same thing once you convert 4-star, 3-star instead of 3-star, 2-star. That would make a lot of sense. Most of the Scopely stuff seems to follow that way.
Yeah, but for somebody that's around level, 40, 42 range, I forget when you can start scrapping uncommon 3-star ships, but
the 26s are at like 38 or 39. The 28s are 42.
Okay. So that's essentially where you want to focus your attention, right? So for somebody that spends very little to play or is free to play, you're going to want to be figuring out what systems you get blueprints in and going out and just grinding through those and getting blueprints to build the 2-star and 3-star ships, get them maxed out and scrap them. But you should not scrap until it's maxed out, because each level that ship goes up, you get exponentially more. So if you then never scrap a ship unless it's maxed, wait, because you're just not going to get the payout that you should. It's a rip-off to scrap it before it's maxed.
Hard to wait, but it's definitely worth it, especially with that Stella. Like a level 40 Stella only gives you half the particles of a level 45.
Don't short the levels.
If you're level locked or your progression locked, you just flat out aren't. I mean, if it's like it's going to be another year before you're able to even max a Stella, then go ahead and scrap one to get some research going before, you know what I mean? Like if it's only level 35 and you have 2 of them sitting at level 35 and they've been sitting there a while, go ahead and scrap one, whatever. Because you can probably, especially if you have enough resources, just, scrap one and build it right back up to level 35. Like if your limiting factor is the epic credits and you got a whole bunch of uncommon and rare for the Stella, then, go ahead and scrap them early. But make sure you have enough of the credits, to go ahead and get it right back up to where it was, right?
When I first started on my Stella, the thing that I kept in mind every time before I scrapped was how much of the material, the uranium, do I make between now and when my next Stella can get to this point? So if I could make tier 3, brand new Stella level, 26, 27, whatever, if I could make it to tier 3 and make the materials to get back to tier 3 by the time my process was done, that was where I scrapped at. Eventually that would move up to tier 5. Eventually that would be past the rare wall. And now I'm at a point where it's max Stellas. So when you're lower level and you're trying to build these things up and get to what the rest of us that are doing it at max are talking about, make sure that, just like we talked about, like new 0 before for your faction credits, find where it fits in your play style. Find out how much you generate, like Andy suggested, with taking screenshots of what your weekly output is. Find where your spot is and get there and just kind of keep ramping up as your playtime allows you to. You'll get to where we're talking about eventually.
Yeah, because what it does come down to is this is your game. You only can take suggestions and go from there.
Right. Obviously don't blindly just follow any advice. Unless somebody's extremely adamant, like don't build a 4-star miner. Don't do it. Don't waste your time or resources. It's ridiculous. Don't build them. But other than that, the only exception for those 4-star miners is if you just aren't able to mine 4-star otherwise. Like if you needed it for warp range. But even then, man, they're just so expensive. I would rather just summon.
I would think that the disco mechanic.
The disco and the Franklin made such a game changer.
Most people just go ahead and move their base up to the little spoke system. It looks like if you were to draw a circle around it, it'd be a wheel with spokes.
Yeah, the hubs.
Yeah, that first spoke system, you can move your base up in there, and within there, there is no warp limit when you get to that point where you can get there.
Yeah, within the limit of the circle of systems right there. So like there's a 42 or 43. Yeah, you can sit there in the 42 or 43 system where all the good hostiles spawn for that faction, and you can send your miners out within anything connected to that spoke, regardless of warp range, and mine anything that's within reach. And it will give you G4 of that faction's type, along with all 3 RSS, and each one of them has a LAT system as well, I believe.
Right. And for the smaller players, that goes for any hub system. So if, say you want to get into a hub system to mine in P.E.K.K.A. in Klingon space, and your envoy isn't strong enough to reach P.E.K.K.A. yet, but your fighting ship can, you can just move your base up there to that hub system, and you could send a Fortunate over there to mine. It's the same.
I don't know about a Fortunate, but
well, I'm not saying you should.
I don't think I've ever even used one of those.
There is a warp range. It's just very low.
There's something out there. I know that an envoy unassisted at decent 39 research can do it without any trouble, though, as long as you stay within that hub.
Oh, I had never tried an envoy.
I was incredulous when Cook said that an envoy could make it, and I was miffed enough that I went out there and tested myself, and I was Scotty, leave him on the side. Cook's got to be full of shit. No, he was not.
That's awesome.
Would I steer you wrong?
Yes.
We have to answer that.
Trust but verify.
I'm going to say, if it would get a laugh, you'd know either one of us would do it in a heartbeat with a straight face.
I exercise my Fifth Amendment right now.
You're an admiral. You have no Fifth Amendment right.
You're right. Captain's prerogative.
That's okay. I'll just
fuck.
call on you anyways.
Cook and I were looking through our ships, how many ships we can build, like 60 envoys, and like we'd love to be able to give that stuff away to our younger players, that are wanting to build ships and can't, here's some blueprints, here's some ship parts.
I really wish they would have kept the market at level 50.
Yeah, that used to be there. Somebody was just telling me that.
That was me. I was telling you about that.
Yep,
When we
there's
started
that building.
the game, there was a building there that said market, and it said available at level 50, and I was always like, well, hey, I wonder what that's like. I mean, obviously, by saying it's available at level 50 2 years ago means that they actually didn't have anything planned for it. It's just a placeholder.
It was the big lie. And then
I'm sure they had something planned for it. They just decided not to do it because it wasn't advantageous to them making money. So
yeah,
and that makes me really sad because as a former WoW player, I look at that and I'm like, can we not have an alliance, an alliance storehouse or something where I can take this pile of prints and just dump them? Somebody else can come and grab them and run, but yeah, it's
if I'm wrong, but WoW you don't pay to progress. You can buy stuff to like make character look cool and reskin stuff and whatnot, right?
But from what I recall, it was more about the subscription. So it'd be like Eve Echoes, as I hear it, would be a better a better comparison.
It's a totally different business model.
Eve Echoes does have a market.
True, that's a good point.
Yeah.
This game is just non-subscription.
The battle pass is sort of a subscription.
No, but it's not the same though. He said, like you said, it's a different business model. So with paid subscription service, they're just residual money. It's constant rolling. Whereas
they know they're going to get that money from every single player every single time. Whereas Scopely doesn't. There's no guarantee anybody's going to spend money. They got to keep making packs that people are willing to spend money on. They have to keep making content that people want to play. And if they don't do that, they don't have a revenue stream. Whereas a game like WoW, there's subscription. So as long as those people are playing that game, they're always going to get that money.
That's why progression is viable in a game like that, whereas this game is geared towards pushing people to splurge or pushing people to feel pressed or making them feel rushed.
Right.
It's like they take it and figure out what's a comfortable way to progress like a ship, like the Stella,
But
I would encourage they double it and then have you pay to reduce it back to that comfortable spot again.
But I would encourage everybody that has the means to spend a little money on this game. If you're playing it enough to get to level 39 or whatever free to play, you should spend a little money on the game. I mean, you spend a lot of time on it. I mean, unless you're somebody that just doesn't have it, like can't pay rent, spend money on the game. And I know there are people like that, and that's fine, But if you have the means and you have the disposable income, you could spend $100 a month or whatever, I would encourage people that have the money to spend a little bit, because there are certain things that you can only get from spending money, such as some of the primes and whatnot. And we know that some of these are extremely important to progression. So there are a few very specific key things that you really need to spend the money on if you're serious about it.
And if you're not, there's nothing wrong with that either. As far as a lot of people in the server are concerned, there's plenty of players out there that are slow grind, free to play, just happy to be here casually and have a good time and put, what time they can in the game. And, there's nothing wrong with that play style. There's every alliance that I've spent any time in from Nona to MRFM, anywhere that I've been since then, visiting or otherwise, everybody wants to push the idea that, just play your game, You know, because there's a lot of us on this server that are very competitive and have a great time being competitive with one another and trying to chase one another and one up each other and all that. But we're also, at least most players in my experience, are the type of people that are more than happy to say, hey, this is a game. And while I am a competitive player, you don't have to be for me to treat you like a person. So don't be afraid to go at your own pace and don't be bashful about saying, hey, this is just my leisure time activity, because not everybody's going to have it open on their tablet like Tiger does 20 hours a day. You know, you
Sorry
don't have
about
to be
that.
that guy.
I lost my connection. I don't know if I was talking in the middle of when I
No,
lost my connection.
no, you were good. I do have a question for you, Handy.
Yeah.
As we're talking about people needlessly mining in deep space, I'm in Darshai right now, looking at Nano Joe. He's on 2 nodes of gas, one with a max Antares with a bad crew, a TOS crew, and then on the other O node with a level 15 Hydra.
Yeah, that's kind of ridiculous, but whatever. I mean, he needs to be prepared to get hit if somebody needs that node.
I may hit him because I've been in 3 systems already with no nodes. I'm checking.
Oh, just hit the man.
Give him a 5-minute warning and clear him. Just pick the one with no OPL if there is one.
Both of them have no OPL.
Well, there you go. I mean, it's his fault for using 4-star ships. Are they both 4-star?
No, one's a max Antares. I'd hit that.
Oh, then hit the Antares.
Oh, I'll totally hit the Antares.
Yeah, so he doesn't have a big repair bill.
Also, because I found one other gas node in the other system, but it's 40K, and I don't feel like staying up that late. Sorry, 2 40K ones. That's the other thing that drives me nuts.
Yeah,
that drives me nuts more than anything else is the partial nodes.
Let me say more than anything, like not even just in G4 space, but let's talk about in territory on your ISO nodes. Guys, stop leaving me 8K nodes. Come on now, please.
Say that one more time.
The 8K ISO nodes have got to stop. Like when you have a miner out there, people have really slowed down on OPL hitting in TC space for the most part, at least for us. Like practice mining etiquette. You know, think about the next guy that's coming along after you, and make sure that if you know you've got to get 50K or whatever for your daily, if that node's not going to go 50K and people aren't hitting OPL on that material or resource or whatever, finish the node if you can. You know, if time allows or real life allows, finish the node off and leave it in good shape for the next person that you know needs the same thing you do.
Yeah, that is good etiquette, and honestly, one that I do not follow. Just to be honest,
I am far from perfect there myself. I'm sure people in MCR P3Q whatever the fuck are really upset at me for my node etiquette too. But you know, I at least try to have a mind towards it. You know, preach to other people to be better than I am. Something like that.
Yeah, that and don't sit on 0 nodes. I mean, that's incredibly annoying for your alliance, especially the bigger alliances that, you know, that are typically full. You know, all their nodes are full because it's a hassle to try and find somebody to come clear zeros.
Right, when we had our extra spots, that would drive me absolutely apeshit about having to reach out to other Dominion members, be like, hey, I need you guys to swing by and clear some shit out. And it's like, you know, we give them warning, hey, we're going to be doing this. Hey, we're going to be doing this. You know, like hours in advance sometimes. Hey, we're doing this. And then when they come through, why did they hit me? Motherfucker. Like, seriously.
Well, you could always play hardball and just kick people if they do it repeatedly.
Yeah.
So I
kick
run into this
them,
problem
blow them up,
every
and
time.
when they message you, invite them back. It's probably not going to make him too happy, but
when we can throw G4 ships, we might try that tactic. But I'm not sure that works as well for us down here yet.
Probably not. I don't think it would work well for any alliance, honestly. But
I mean, a 35 doesn't make me pause, but anything within 3 or 4 levels of me, 3 levels of me, makes me kind of go, I don't know.
Yeah.
I think we are done a great chat, but we also went like an hour.
Way over.
I'm sorry about that.
Drift, because Drift is the one who's editing these things.
Well, yeah, I've got it. I've still got to ring Tech about that soon.
Yeah.
I haven't wanted to bug him yet, but I think I might with this one. It was such, they don't make it easy. Like however they encode this recording is not like compatible with the Odyssey program that's used to edit it, even though they say it is. Like you have to like manually install codec. So I've gotten that far. It's just how to comfortably edit things with the way they structure it. I'm sure he could help me pretty quickly.
The problem is that Craig has his mic like directly in his mouth there, and that just makes all editing just impossible.
You're supposed to talk in the other end, Craig, not put the handle in your mouth.
If he had hands at the end of his sticks, he'd be cupping that mic, and I'd be yelling at him.
All right, guys. Have a wonderful evening.
You too. Thank you very much for joining us.
The next one.
Thanks for the time, guys. Have a good night.
Good night, y'all.
Take care.
Thanks everyone for joining us, and we will see you again next week. Same bad time, same bad place.
I knew you were going to say that.
Why wouldn't I say that? It's been 50 years. Isn't the trademark over on it?
Batman is the second worst superhero ever. I'm just going to say that now.